Collapsed ruin too. Mother said she will come back. She believes in her mother. That's why the pipsqueak would never leave. SSSSSZZ. G-Sky hissed a breath of cold air, as he stared in astonishment at his own hand then. It's red from being burned from making contact with Di Lingyan's skin. Out of reflex, the old senior wanted to retract his hand to avoid the heat, but thankfully he woke up in the nick of time and refused to let go. You big baddie, let go of me. I'm going to find mother. I'm going to find my mother. Crying out loudly, Di Lingyan continues to struggle from that hand holding onto her shoulder. As a result of this, her anger coincided with the rising temperature. If before the senior felt like he's holding a fireball, then right now he's definitely holding molten lava. Even so, Elder Sky knew he mustn't let go of this girl. Otherwise, she may disappear into the ruins forever. Before long, under this constant struggle, the crumbling slabs of the ancient ruin finally fell apart in its entirety. Now there stood nothing but a flat mass of rocks, and the occasional metallic sheen of whatever that was before the collapse. Miss Lingyan. Elder Sky saw an opening after the pipsqueak grew tired, and quickly wrapped both his hands around her tiny body, his eyes equally as grim. This place is too dangerous. We must first go back to the Monarch Manor to determine our next course of action. I'm not leaving. Mother will come back. I promise to wait here until she does. Miss Lingyan. I said I'm not leaving. Raging with inferno, even the temperature around the pipsqueak had started to broil over. Perhaps it's the heat, or the distressing situation of the end result of the rubble before their eyes. But the old senior's grip around the struggling girl's shoulder gradually loosened, since the main danger has passed. Lingyan may be small, but she's always been a stubborn one like her mother. Sluggish and swaying as she hobbled forward, the extreme sadness muffled any cry she would have had right now. This was despite the fact that she kept falling and scraping her knee. Any other time she would have cried at the sting. Mother, don't you want me anymore? She squirmed forward, appearing all powerless and lost. Lingyan will be very good. I won't make mother angry, so. Can you come back, okay? Answering her plea was nothing but the rustling wind of the leaves and the leveled rocks. This kid, it's painful to see her this sensible. G-Sky didn't try to console her anymore, and merely stood in silence on the back. He knows words would only make the pain hurt all the more right now. Pulling herself up from the ground, the pipsqueak suddenly forces a smile from that dull-looking face. Lingyan believes in mother. She has never lied to me. Mother will definitely come back. If from the beginning Elder Sky only believed the monarch only favored this child due to her adorable appearance, then right now he's of the opinion it's due to her personality. That level of trust and sensibility was a rare attribute no matter one's age. Path to Escape 1. Miss Lingyan, are you hurt anywhere? Do you need me to take a look for you? Elder Sky sighed and asked. Lingyan shook her head, the childish voice landing with force. Mother suffered so much in her life. How can I be weak when I'm mother's daughter? Her sight never once left the flattened ruins when saying this. She's proud like Bai Yen. That's why she won't allow herself to be treated as a weakling even in spirit. Then G-Sky wanted to ask if she's willing to go back with him then, but his words never made it out of those lips before the child formed a smirk. I'm going to wait for mother, and if she doesn't come out then I won't go. She believes that her mother would always come back. If she came out and didn't see her right away, Di Lingyan was certain Bai Yen would be very worried. Seeing this, G-Sky no longer said more about the topic. Sitting down right next to the child, his voice was loving and doting. In that case I will stay here with you. We will both wait for them to come out. On a vast stretch of grassland, Bai Yen weakly leans in with her back against a tree to rest, her red dress sticky and filthy from the bloody sweat incurred by the battle. What just happened? She asks her father that's standing to one side. Just now after they dealt with the new wave of monsters, she felt a sudden sinking feeling from nowhere. At first the demon queen got very worried, but that sensation only lasted for a brief second before disappearing. I don't know. Heavenly responds, his face equally as grim despite the mighty and heroic contour. Narrowing in her eyes, Bai Yen wiped some of the sweat from the forehead and got up to cautiously scan the world around themselves. They've been here for quite some time already. Despite knowing the time was warped compared to the outside world, it doesn't change the fact that she's starting to get very worried. What's more, they've still yet to figure out an exit for this place. And then there's her mother Bai Ning and her daughter Di Ling, Yan waiting on the outside. Father, we've been here for some time now. If this continues, then Mother will definitely begin to worry for us. I believe some drastic measures must be taken if we are to ever leave this place. Heavenly made quite the bitter smile, fully understanding what his daughter was implying. You've seen it for yourself, there are no exits in sight. The area will also change and manipulate our sense of direction if we move. What's your plan though? I felt a sinking sensation earlier during the end of the wave. Bai Yan's sight converged upon the supposed sky above their heads. What's your thought about me breaking apart this sky? They couldn't stay here any longer. These monsters are growing increasingly more powerful to the point where they too are feeling the strain. Perhaps the next wave would be too much for them to resist anymore. Breaking the sky? Heavenly appears startled by the idea, although he does not know how long the outside world had passed. But the guy knew enough that they've been in this ruin for years already based on the number of waves they fought thus far. And during this entire period, his thoughts were always on the ground, the floor. Never once did he thought about breaking apart the sky and going that route. Would it work? Path to escape too. Since this time Bai Yin has raised the point. Maybe. They could try. Okay, what do you need Father here to do? Heavenly slightly nods as affirmation. No matter what kind of attempt Bai Yin makes as a father, he must support her. No need. I'm just giving it a try. I don't know if it will work out. Casually raising her hand, Bai Yin summons her Godslayer out and wields it with grace as she locked onto the sky. Immediately, a light blade suddenly shot out of the sword and flew towards the open blueness. If at first she didn't pay attention to the blue sky here, then that changed the moment she felt that sinking sensation. She clearly saw the rippling in that ceiling. It's like a curtain, an illusionary mirage to blind their eyes from reality. That's why she's able to figure out the exit must be up there and not on the ground. Rip, so it's like that. Exactly like Bai Yin suspected. The second her energy blade made contact with the ceiling, it ripped apart down the middle in the same manner as a canvas being sliced. Both individuals revealed an uncontrolled joy on their faces at the sight. Even if countless monsters suddenly appeared out of nowhere in the sky and surrounded them in the middle, it still didn't dampen their delight, for they knew the direction has been found. These are all flying monsters, one of them. It's at the Divine Lord rank like Mi Yin Yen. Heavenly's expression grew solemn at the sight of the creature, but his lips remained smiling nevertheless. How powerful was the owner of this ancient ruin? They must be much stronger than I am, if they're able to control puppets at the level of a monarch like myself. Father, my instincts were right. The way to leave this ruin is through the ceiling, but, clutching her Godslayer, Bai Yan's lip arcs into a smirking grin. It looks like we won't be able to leave so easily. That big one up there is clearly the final boss in charge of guarding the ruins. Father isn't entirely wrong, it seems, about his theory of defeating all these puppets. It's likely the exit will show itself anyways once we defeat the final wave regardless. We merely accelerated the process. Yen Yen, I'll handle the strongest one up there. Can you stall the rest while I fight? Although the other monsters are not as strong as himself, but they're no small fries either. At the very least, the rest are very close to being Divine Lord level monsters too. Then coupled with the weaker creatures further out of the encirclement, this horde was nothing to scoff at. I can handle it. Bai Yan's voice sounded unyielding and powerful. If there's only one way out of this place, she would face any enemy and never back down. Ha ha ha. Heavenly bellows out a hearty laugh and grinned with pride. That's my daughter. In this life, I can ask for no better. My only regret is not being able to give you and your mother what you both deserve. But now I can at least do this much to redeem myself a bit. Seeing the flying monsters getting closer and closer, Heavenly gives one final glance at that perfect face to sear the image into his mind. He doesn't want to let this go, but he also knows the risk he's taking today. He might not survive to see another day if things don't pan out. But don't worry, Yen Yen. Your father, I will make sure you somehow get out of here. Even if it means being buried here for good, nothing will keep me from being a parent. He owes her too much that not even a lifetime would be enough to compensate. What's more, she's his only daughter, someone who's suffered so much because of his own folly in the past. Simply dying was the least he could do as a failure of a parent. Path to Escape 3. Today, as long as I'm alive, I'm going to send my daughter out of this place. Even if the price is my obliteration. The man's voice rocked the air itself in how arrogant and mighty it sounded. His momentum acted in accordance as well, and exploded into an undefeatable form. It's unknown how, but the news of Heavenly Flame's disappearance had swept through the countless outer domains by this point. As a result, many of the monarchs who were originally watching from afar regarding the situation of the waning seal could no longer stand idle. They began to send their men into this domain in force. To be clear, it's not the first time these monarchs attacked Heavenly's turf. The difference would be that they never did manage to succeed thanks to G-Sky and the other deceased elders in charge. However, that's quickly coming to an end, for the last attack only failed thanks to the man himself returning for good. Now that the opportunity has opened itself up again, there's no way they wouldn't take it. After all, they hated Heavenly to the bone for sealing them away in their own realms. While G-Sky and Lingyan quietly sat there in the valley awaiting the return of their important ones, a loud urgent voice suddenly cut in from above. Elder Sky, things are not looking good. Hearing this voice of anxious urgency, the old senior's face furrowed up and focused onto the blue-colored dress. Second Elder, how come you are here? Elder Sky, the monarchs of the other domains have invaded. At the rate things are going, our forces will fall. The one speaking was none other than Elder Butterfly, the only female leader of the Monarch Manor. She's come at the behest of the others who are fighting heroically to defend their home right now. If not for that, she too wouldn't want to disturb the pair here. What did you say? G-Sky's face got very ugly then, his old expression wrinkling up into a red prune. How did the other domains get wind of our liege's disappearance? Those blasted bastards. First it's traitors among their ranks who acted as spies for the enemy in the past. And now there's another spy leaking information out to the other domains. How could he not be angry when the previous invasion costed his son and daughter-in-law's life? Let's go, we're getting rid of those bastards now. Right as the old senior was about to leave, he suddenly recalled there's also the little pipsqueak behind himself. As a result, the grandpa hesitated and grew troubled. Miss Lingyan, would you like to come with me? The pipsqueak stubbornly shakes her head. I'm staying here to wait for Mother. If Grandpa Sky has something to do, it's okay to leave me here. Path to Escape 4. This won't do. I promised your mother to look after you. I can't leave you alone and not care. G-Sky's frown had now caused his wrinkles to become deep gashes, which also magnified his worry and hesitation. On one hand, if he doesn't go and help the Monarch Manor, then it would be destroyed. By then countless deaths and injuries would occur. This includes his own granddaughter Song, who stayed behind at home. But if he leaves this place though, that would mean he's leaving behind this pipsqueak, after he promised to look after her in Bai Yan's stead. No matter what he chooses, the result would hurt one or the other side. Carrying her lovely face to look up at the old grandpa. You should leave. You cannot let Sister Song be in danger. And the Monarch Manor's people are also Grandpapa's subordinate. I do not want to be the reason they get hurt. Grandpapa Heavenly is so kind to me. I mustn't be a drag on him for selfish reasons. But I also can't leave this place. I know Mother will be worried if she comes out and don't see me. Elder Sky, your strength is the strongest aside from the monarch himself. Only you can ensure the security of everyone over there. Don't worry. I will stay behind and watch over Miss Lingyan. Elder Butterfly smiles and LCKI with the pipsqueak before nodding. Nothing will happen while under my watch, I promise this. In terms of power, Butterfly would be second among her peers, weaker only by Elder Sky. Okay. G-Sky mused over the idea for a second and agreed. Bringing Lingyan back with him to the manor may not be the best option. After all, if a fight breaks out, he may not necessarily be able to protect her. If Elder Butterfly's willing to stay behind to care for her, then it's the best he could ask for. Miss Ling Yan, I will quickly deal with those attackers in return. Please stay with Elder Butterfly while I'm away. The old senior casts an uneasy look at the child. Due to the twitching in his eye, G-Sky didn't wait and hurried off out of worry for his own granddaughter's song. Just like that, he's gone after turning himself into a yellow bolt of lightning. Actually, the little pipsqueak gently scratched the sand with her tiny finger, her voice soft and tiny. Grandpa Sky isn't such a bad person. She could somewhat understand why the senior would behave so stubborn and rude, since it's related to song, but the displeasure of her grandmother by Ning being hurt still made her unhappy inside. If the little pipsqueak drags her face by propping it against one of her palm. If mother and grandmother forgives him, then I will too. Surprised by the remark, Butterfly suddenly found herself wanting to chuckle at that childish behavior. What if your mother and grandmother don't forgive him? The woman smiled and gave the child a rub on the head. Looking up with those curious eyes, a clever light beamed out of them like a fox. In that case, I won't forgive him either, that's obvious. Speechless now, Butterfly helplessly shakes her head in amusement. Mrs. D is such a lucky woman to have such a wonderful daughter. Exactly then, the woman's finger froze from out of the blue, her eyes popping in shock as her body turned rigid. Slowly looking up, what appeared inside her vision was an old man in white standing not far away. He got there without her sensing him at all until now. Path to Escape 5. Perhaps it's the dispute between Gu Yan and Bai Yan from before, but Butterfly did not like this encounter at all, and even found the old man in front of herself especially dangerous. Gu Lao, why are you here? Forming a smile at the question, the old and deceptive senior waves his hand like it's nothing special. Elder Butterfly, there's no need to be so wary of me. I'm merely here at the bequest of Elder Sky, whom I encountered along the way. He's changed his mind about leaving Miss Ling Yan and asked me to bring her back. Staring at the calm and fake face, the female elder didn't believe that story one bit. Narrowing in her eyes, Miss Ling Yan does not wish to leave, nor do I believe your story. Not to mention Elder Sky would never hand such a task to you. That's within expectations. Gu Lao never expected his lie to work anyways. After all, if this female elder could be so easily deceived, then she wouldn't be called second elder of the Monarch Manor. It's just that Gu Lao's heart would nevertheless feel like it's being devoured by ants merely at the sight of Ling Yan being so well protected. It's unfair and stealing the love away from his milady Guya. Auntie Butterfly. Ling Yan pursed her lips and turned to the old senior with a finger pointed out. Is he trying to kidnap me so that the bad woman can eat Ling Yan? Popping her eyes at the sudden and strange question, Butterfly looks down in shock. Why would you say that? That bad woman kept trying to abduct me whenever she sees Ling Yan. If she's not trying to eat me, then what other reason is there? I bet I taste very delicious. The pipsqueak proudly cocks her chin up, like being delicious was something worthy of gloating. I will wait for mother to come back. I won't go with these bad people. Twitching in the mouth, Butterfly got to hand it to this little one. Okay, I won't let anyone take you away, especially not this guy. She promised Elder Sky that she would not let anything happen to the pipsqueak. Even if she gets hurt, she won't go back on that vow. Gu Lao's complexion sank into a dark grim look. Butterfly, it's too dangerous to keep this little lass near the monarch, especially her mother and grandmother. They're definitely up to no good. Do you want them to take over the Monarch Manor or something? Getting cold in her face with a sneer on those lips. Watch your tongue there, Gu Lao. Who do you think you or Guya is? You're nothing but individuals adopted by the Monarch Manor in the past. Elder Sky already told us of Guya's origin. Merely someone saved by the monarch at one point, and then refused to leave no matter how we tell her to. What qualification does she and you have in dictating who gets to stay in the Monarch Manor? Truth was Butterfly never had a biased opinion of Guya before. Even if Guya did steal the credit away from the elders, by eavesdropping on their plan of summoning Heavenly back to their domain, the female elder merely believed the other side was too urgent, and didn't think too much of it. However, the recent events of Guya showing indiscriminate injustice towards Bai Yan told her that's not the case. Against such a jealous person, Butterfly only had disgust and nothing less and nothing more. 0 is equal to 0. What do you know? Gu Lao grew furious and glared at the female. Milady merely loves the monarch far too much. What is wrong with loving a person? I will definitely grant my Mrs. wish. She will definitely become the mistress of the monarch manor. Ha ha ha. At the end of the day, Gu Lao has fallen into the realm of madness with his face overtaken by hatred. As long as these people don't exist anymore, then the monarch will be Milady's. No one can take away the happiness that belongs to her. Ling Yan. Sensing the murderous intent coming off of Gu Lao, Butterfly subconsciously pulls the child behind herself, making an alarmed face. You think you're my opponent? Path to Escape 6. Ho ho. Gu Lao sarcastically laughed aloud. The fact that I came proves that I have left my life aside. For my lady, I'm willing to give my all. My life was saved by the lady. Even if this time I must die and be buried here today, I'm willing. Butterfly felt it right after that statement. Energy swelled out of the aftershock from the power release, which made the woman's cheeks sting from the burst alone. What did you do? She asked with gritted teeth, that face pale, and alarmed by the drastic difference in their levels. I said so before. I will help my miss win her love. Gu Lao's momentum surged as he slowly strode towards Butterfly. Don't worry. No one will know or find out you were here once we're done. And if the monarch does find out, I will take the full blame. No one can hurt the lady. The female elder's eyes turned dark. Does Guya know about this? Of course not. How could an excellent and kind person like her allow me to do something this harmful? Gu Lao sneered. I came without telling her anything. This is my own decision. That made the female elder laugh hysterically. Contemptuous in the eye. Kind? Excellent. If she really is so excellent, then she should be able to let go when it's time, and not entangle herself with the monarch. If she is so kind, then why did she malign Mrs. D before? She also tried to use Elder Sky's hand to remove her rival. What's kind about that? This is the first time I've seen such an excellent and kind woman, all right. Unbeknownst to the two confronting opponents, the child whom one wants to protect, and the other wants to kill had started to behave strangely. She's still the cute and adorable self, but those eyes had a very unnatural way to them. It's as if there's something in there, something which shouldn't belong. Ling Yan. After dropping that remark, Butterfly bows down to whisper into the child's ear. I will keep this old thing busy. You run first and find a place to hide. Elder Sky will come really soon. Ling Yan did not respond to that, only staring at the old senior with a burning flame slowly growing bigger in those eyes. Stop me. No matter how small her voice was in that whisper, Gu Lao could still hear it with his ears. Sneering with a dismissive gesture. I used a special forbidden Dan pill to increase my strength. It won't be so easy if you think you can stop me. Dan pill. Cocking her brow, Butterfly figured it must be something he took before coming. She never saw him consume a pill once she noticed him, so that's the most logical explanation. What kind of pill did you take? She asked after musing over the news, guffawing a laugh. That you don't need to know. It's something I got many years ago. This is a good opportunity for me to test its effectiveness, so accept your fate. Aside from Elder Sky and the monarch, there's no one here that I fear anymore. She needed no warning to understand. She's not an opponent for Gu Lao anymore. That violent air surging out of the old man was unlike anything she's seen in the guy. That proves he's not lying. Likely the pill he took was some sort of suicidal drug, for a vast increase in power, for burning his life force or something. It's not the first time this female elder seen something like that. Swish! It's exactly then Gu Lao finally attacked with whistling power, charging at the pair of females. Path to Escape 7. Butterfly rushed to push Ling Yan aside so she doesn't get caught in the crossfire. Boom! Gu Lao's fist made a direct hit onto the female's chest using this opening, causing her to stumble several big steps backward. There's blood hanging out from the corner of her lips due to the injury. To think his strength would become this powerful after using some forbidden drug. No matter, I only need to drag this out until the effects expire. Such drugs always had a huge drawback. By then I will counter and beat him. Anti-Butterfly, watch out. The pipsqueak cries out after seeing the foe attempts to follow up with a second attack. Every punch Gu Lao threw was a storm in of itself, unmanageable and unstoppable. Butterflies already found it difficult to cope with the barrage of hits. It only got worse when she noticed Ling Yan trying to run over again. Using a panicking voice, "Go now, Ling Yan, run." Due to the little tumble from earlier, Ling Yan appearance was like a helpless baby that needs to be cuddled and protected in the way she moved. It's reasonable to say she's able to melt hearts with that weak image. I really don't get why this bastard would hold such extreme hate towards her. Does this bastard not have any shame? Gu Lao did not care one bit about the girl's appearance. He only wants to kill both of them right now. Pulling his sword right off the ground, he strikes down for the third time in a single moon slash at Butterfly to take her head. Unable to react in time, the female elder in her haste did the only reaction she could think of and reached up with both hands to catch that blade. She caught it, but only barely as the blade cut partly into her palm, thus allowing the blood to flow. There are trickles of red dripping down onto the female's head and onto her eyes. Snarling with cynical sarcasm, "Gu Lao, are you really going to do this?" Now the tip of that sword was only inches away from her temple, a short thrust away from slicing right through that skull. Surprisingly, the question caused the old senior to hesitate for a second. There's no lie in him hating Ling Yan, but he's worked with Butterfly for many years. Does he really want to kill her? The answer would of course be a no. But then suddenly, the splitting image of Guya desperately pleading for help and crying with sadness ripped at his old heart once again. Whatever hesitation or softening of his heart swept away in that second, replaced only by the cold hardness of a murderer. If you two don't die, then how can Milady become the monarch's wife? Back then it was Elder Sky who gossiped to the monarch's ear and ruined it all. If not for that, she would have long become the mistress of the monarch manor. There never would have been the opportunity for her to be hurt by the likes of you, or those rotten outsiders. Gritting her teeth with erupting anger after what she heard, Butterfly stopping trying to stop the sword with both her palms, and instead directly grabbed hold of the blade with her fingers, to stop it from moving 1 inch closer. His monarchness hates it when someone tries to control him. The fact that he didn't choose Guya proves that he didn't like her. Whose heavenly flame? A man that could seal the other domains away using his own strength alone. Why would he be swayed by some simple gossip? No one could dictate what that man does. Nonsense. Gu Lao's eyes flared with anger. It's the fault of you all. You're the all hindering their love. It's all your fault. Losing all sense of his sanity, the old bastard flexes his muscle even hard, and attempts to cut off those hands directly to reach Butterfly's head. As hard as the female elder tried to repel the blade with her own flesh and bone there, she's no match for this drug-induced Gu Lao. His strength has exceeded her own using that pill. It would just be a matter of time before it's over at this rate. Batty, you let go of Anti-Butterfly. It's unknown when, but the pipsqueak had ran over to the old scumbag's leg by then, and opened her mouth to take one huge bite at that arm. Path to Escape 8. The little girl's teeth were very sharp, so it easily pierced through Gu Lao's skin, and caused his blood to flow down the child's mouth. Originally this bite did not have much strength to it, so he would normally make a frown at the annoyance. But for some reason, those teeth were searing hot. It's burning his skin, and that's what made the old guy flinch and loosen the grip. In his rage, Gu Lao ruthlessly tosses the child's side with a fling. Clang! The long sword in his also fell to the ground after being let go, thus causing a metallic sound on contact. As bloodied as her hands were, Butterfly did not have the time to worry about her own injuries right now, and quickly ran over to check up on Ling Yan, who fell head first to the ground. She's extremely worried for the pipsqueak's health. "Miss Ling Yan, how are you? Are you hurt anywhere?" Coming out of her daze, Ling Yan slowly shook her head, and got up under the woman's help, glaring fiercely at the bastard. "Don't bully Anti-Butterfly, and don't bully my mother and grandmother. If you do, I will bite you to death." Baring her teeth, she attempts to act all ferocious to only end up all the more cuter. Under such an appearance, no one would have ever have imagined she's a little witch who had just bitten someone's arm. "Who exactly are you? Gu Lao's sight finally shifted from butterfly to Ling Yan. There's a scorched color on his arm, which was clearly not bitten but burned out. In all the years he's lived, this was the first time he encountered such sharp teeth, and a girl that can heat up like a pyre. I'm my mother's daughter, don't you know? Ling Yan pats away the dust from her dress, those eyes still very much irate. I don't care why you are looking to make trouble for Mother and me, but you won't be allowed to hurt Mother or her people. If you do, I will set them on fire and burn them. When Big Brother is around, it's he who protects Mother. Since Big Brother isn't around, then it's up to me to guard her. Humph, nothing but an inexperienced baby. Gu Lao shouts this aloud with an ironic sneer. Even your mother may not necessarily be my opponent, let alone you who can only heat up. As long as I keep my distance, then you can't do a thing. The old man raised his hand, and instantly the long sword which he held before flew right back into his palm from the ground. With a swing, he aims it directly at the pipsqueak for the kill. Ling Yan didn't move, and simply gawked her eyes there. She only knows how to bite people, and then set them on fire. No one ever told her what to do in this situation. If Big Brother is here, he will definitely know what to do. He will find a way. Suddenly, the pipsqueak's eyes shrank due to what occurred in front of herself. Standing in her way was Butterfly with her long blue dress. That outfit was a beautiful gown to begin with, but right now, the blossoming spectacle of blood gave it an even more dazzling look of a flowery pattern on her chest. Likewise, Gu Lao also didn't expect this, and showed an incredulous look as he pulled the sword out of the female elder's body. The senior was equally as startled by this outcome. Why? Butterfly, who is always cold and disregarding of things around herself, would throw her own life away for a little child she just met? Why? Auntie Butterfly? Still taken aback by the outcome, Ling Yan did the only thing that came to mind, and quickly ran over to help support that crumbling figure. Sadly, with her small arms and stature, the pipsqueak could hardly hold the woman up despite all her efforts. Admiration 1. Falling into the pipsqueak's arm, Butterfly's bleeding blood quickly stained the child's snowy white dress, as well once they're on the ground together. Auntie Butterfly. Without hesitation, Ling Yan promptly pulled out a dagger from her waist, and placed the blade against her wrist and cut it. Blood trickled down her tender little hand, allowing the drops of red fluid to fall onto the female elder's open chest wound. As hard as it was to keep her eyes open, Butterfly did manage to take in a glimpse of the situation. She saw the kid cutting herself for some unknown reason. However, the woman quickly understood why once the warm current flowed into her chest following the powerful life force entering her soul. Auntie Butterfly, don't sleep. Ling Yan will save you. You must not sleep. Red in the eye, the underlying tears refused to come out of the corner of the eye due to that stubbornness. Gu Lao felt a huge punch to his own guts when seeing that despised child going this far. He never expected a villainous character to use their own blood to save another. As such, his original attack of slashing down at the pipsqueak stalled in midair, and held it there. For the second time in this fight, the old bastard fell into a loss. He's swaying in his decision to continue this, for he knows how cruel and vile his own actions are right now. However, like the previous relapse, his mind soon imagined the helpless and poor image of Guya pleading to him to like some sort of whisper, telling him to do it. Just do it, and everything would be finished. Whatever guilt or sanity he had got swept away in that instant, transforming into a ruthless and murderous gaze that locked onto the child once more. He's truly fallen. No matter what this little girl does, she's the one who broke Milady's heart. She must die. Acting like she couldn't see the person already behind herself with that weapon, Ling Yan continues to let her blood run down onto Butterfly's wound. At the rate she's going, that visible wound would soon recover. This scene caused Gu Lao to squint in his eyes, due to the surprise of her blood's ability. Despite this, the surprise only lasted for a second before his lips evoked into a sneer. Miss Ling Yan, don't move. I'll let you die in the least painful way. But if you resist, I'm afraid I won't be able to hold my hand properly and might slip. The pipsqueak did not respond. She's invested all her heart into saving the severely injured Butterfly. Whatever the old bastard wants to do was of no importance to herself. Seeing Ling Yin did not speak, Gu Lao figured any talks were over. Snorting coldly, he promptly stabs down with his longsword at the child's body. But his sword had not yet fallen when a burst of flame suddenly gushed forward from that tiny figure. The flame acted like a barrier, protecting the little girl's body from all outside attacks. Gu Lao became stunned, his eyes deep with shock. What is going on here? Suddenly, he recalled back to the moment where the girl bit his arm. The temperature was already mad hot to the point where even he had to flinch due to the heat. This little girl, what's her origin? The more he thought about it, the more unsettled he became, growing firmer than ever without any hint of hesitation from the hearts down. The old bastard knew he must do this without fail. Otherwise, a great disaster would befall Guya afterwards. Understanding this, he wields his sword and draws an arc in the air, creating a violent current with the momentum, and slashed down with fury. This strike carried his all. In this lifetime, he's never exhausted so much power in one slash, so he's confident it would work. Sure enough, the flaming barrier could not withstand the blow. Ling Yin shot out like a bullet, and fell several meters away from the impact, leaving the child ragged like a broken doll. She's simply laying there helplessly on the dirt without movement. Admiration 2. Ancient ruins. Under the gray ominous sky, Bai Yan's heart suddenly soared with pain, causing her hand to instinctively clench the chest as her face turned palish white. Yin Yen. Heavenly's quickly got ugly after noticing her daughter's chance. First blocking the sharp claw from the monster attacking himself, he flew away to come before the woman. He's very worried and tense in the eyes, for he knows something bad must have happened to make this proud daughter of his to behave this way. What's wrong? Are you hurt anywhere? Giving a shake of her head. I don't know what's going on, father. We have to get out of this place as soon as possible. I feel like something very bad is happening in which we can't see. Something bad? The man wanted to ask for more details to get to the bottom of this, but quickly tossed the idea aside. He could see they don't have the spare time, since the hordes of monsters were already attacking again. What's more, the crack in the sky was letting more and more of these things through, which only emphasized the dangerous situation they are in. Biting his teeth. Sweetie, you leave first. I will draw the attention of these monsters. Originally he wanted to kill the leading creature that's on equal footing to his own first, but now it's apparent the plan needs to change. Naturally, the demon queen wouldn't just leave her own father behind to deal with this horde, but right now the ominous sensation was killing her inside. She's certain something must have happened to Ling Yen, perhaps something terrible. Just imagining that possibility was enough to drive her insane. Father, I will definitely come back and help you. When she finds Ling Yen, she would definitely return. Go with confidence, I'll be all right. Heavenly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth as he raised his palm towards the sky. In a roaring boom, a wall of earth promptly rose from the ground and cut the horde off from Bai Yan's spot. As someone who used the earthen wall, the guy naturally stayed on the other side to act as a shield. What are you waiting for? Seeing how Bai Yan was not moving, the man wrinkled his brow and yelled. As painful as it was, the demon queen finally relented and began to rise into the air for the crack. The mood only got more oppressive the closer she got to the crack. Then suddenly, right before she could make it through the monsters blocking her way, a pillar of fire shot out at her from above. In her haste, the demon queen only knew to dodge to one side and narrowly avoided the fire. But she couldn't catch her breath though. More and more flames were coming at her in sequence. Whip after whip, blast after blast. This was no better than fighting the monsters on the ground. Ling Yen is still waiting for me. I have to leave this place right now. Growing firm in the face, she ignores the danger of taking a direct hit, and plowed right through it all with a giant release of her full might. She could see it now once she's inside that crack. There's darkness, but there's also a brightness at the end. Hope. That was the word she thought of at the whiteness. Whatever worry she had swiftly evaporated, for she knew she's guessed right. Without incident, she was back, directly standing atop of the wooden bridge, like she was never gone in the first place. It's a strange feeling. One second she's flying through a dark void inside the crack. The next she's simply standing here, like she's come out of a daze. I'm out. Did I really leave that place? What's going on here? Did I just get teleported back, or was it all a dream? It's so calm here, like the time I spent fighting with father is a dream I made up. Admiration 3. Yin Yin. A voice of joy came from behind. Bai Yin instantly swung herself around and saw that familiar face. There's pure excitement that's akin to someone recovering their lost treasure. However, right as the demon queen wanted to open her mouth and say something, she got cut off by a tense hug from the other person. She could tell right away due to that trembling arm. Her mother Bai Ning was scared. It didn't help either that her shit had become soaked with tears a few seconds later. Thank goodness you're back. Yin Feng is already in danger. I don't want to lose my only daughter too. Such pain, I can't bear it. Mother, were you here the entire time after I left? Bai Yin asks with pressed lips. Too fearful to let go of those hands. Bai Ning nods profusely like a panicking mother. You suddenly disappeared, so I've been looking for you in the ruins. It's been 3 months since you were gone. 3 months. A trance took over the demon queen's mind at those 2 words. It's been 3 months. Then how long did me and father spend inside that place? Mother, we don't have time to talk. Something might have happened to Ling Yan. We must leave this ruin immediately. Furthermore, she also needs to return to save her own father. So time was imperative here. What did you say? Bai Ning's face suddenly changed for the worse, her hand openly shaking as the grandmother gasped with horror. You said something happened to Ling Yan? How could that have happened? Didn't you entrust her to that elder Sky? Ji Sky's personality, or way of handling things didn't sit well with either lady. But there's no question about the old senior's strength. There are unlikely anyone capable of getting past that old man unless he wills it. I don't know. I only got this sinking feeling that it's bad. My intuition has always been strong, so I can't ignore this. That said, the demon queen reached back with a hand towards her own chest on where the heart lies. Mother, we need to leave now. The ominous sensation has grown to the point she could barely stay put anymore. She's seriously afraid she might be too late. Yet instead of moving right away, Bai Ning's face got extremely white as she stood there. Noticing this strangeness, Mother, what's wrong? Perhaps the voice of her own precious daughter finally brought the grandmother back to reality. First making a distraught face, Bai Ning spoke with a stuttering. Yin Yin, after you were gone, I began to panic and searched high and low for you. Then I recalled it was Di Tsong who sent me here. So I was certain he could somehow locate you. But when I wanted to go outside and find a way to contact him, the ruins suddenly started to collapse. The exit, it was sealed off at that time. Di Tsong sent my mother here to the heavenly domain? Bai Yin became shocked by this detail. Those enemies which attacked the demon realm still hasn't been eradicated, so there's no way Di Tsong could leave unless he hands their sons off to someone reliable. Since there's no one at that caliber, Bai Yin understood her husband wouldn't be able to help. But what's the deal with sending Bai Ning over? When did that guy have such an ability? Of course, these problems weren't the main issue right now. Saving Ling Yan was. Does that mean I can't get out of the ruins? Bai Ning smiled bitterly. That might be the case. Yin Yin, there's a likely chance we won't be able to leave. Impossible. Bai Yin punched a stone pillar nearby out of frustration. I refuse to believe that. I must leave right now. Ling Yan is waiting for me to go save her. Looking at the borderline crazy look in her own daughter, Bai Ning wanted to say something, but swallowed the words back down at the end. She knows her consoling words were pointless and would only make it worse. Admiration 4. Alright, then I'll keep looking for a way out with you. Bai Ning firmly says this, her eyes determined and bright. If Ling Yan wasn't in danger, then they wouldn't be so urgent. But that's not the case. They must locate the exit as soon as possible. Mother, we're going further inside. There must be another passage to the outside world here somewhere. Pulling her punch off the stone pillar, Bai Yin begins to walk towards the inner depths of this ancient structure. As for the poor stone pillar that's been left in their rear, the entire thing instantly crumbled into rubble once they were gone. leaving only a mass of dust in the air. Despite their determination, Bai Ning believes the path up ahead leads only to a dead end. She's already searched this part in most of the areas. There's nothing ahead aside from a big wall. Similarly, the grandmother also understood that even if she had told Bai Yin this stubborn child of hers wouldn't listen unless she sees it in person anyways. As expected, it didn't take long for a wall to block their way forward. Crunching her fist in frustration, Bai Yan's expression didn't show any emotions as she spoke. Since this is an ancient ruin, there must be other passageways we're not aware of. The ones who built this wouldn't have constructed the layout like that. Let's search the place. Okay. Bai Ning silently began to touch the floor and walls with her ears pressed in against them for sounds of abnormality. When Bai Yin disappeared in those months, she also searched for a long time in this manner, since she didn't believe there to be only one exit. The issue was, she couldn't find the supposed passageways, and fell into despair until her daughter suddenly returned. Suddenly, the Demon Queen's sight fell upon a certain painting hanging on one of the walls in front. The depicted female in this painting was not unfamiliar to Bai Yin. In fact, she's seen this person countless times already. Specifically, it's the same one from the ancient diary in her possession. Of the most impressionable feature regarding this individual would be the countless demons prostrating themselves before the woman in the painting. Though that time they were sculptures only instead of a painting, but the air and temperament were identical, where a single fox remains defiant by now bowing its head. It's just that the woman in this picture appeared a little different. Of course, the temperament and details were the exact same, but the vibe from the background accompanying the woman was totally different. Instead of a throne and mighty air, there's a peach blossom tree growing all over the mountain landscape. It's as if this painting was done by a third party, which depicted their own version of this person. Yen, I've already examined this painting before, there's nothing special about it. Bai Ning did not want to waste too much time, so her examination was mainly restricted to a few minutes of physical assessment on her part. Bai Yin did not respond to that comment though. As if attracted by something inside that painting, she slowly strode towards the item. Alarmed by this odd behavior, the grandmother naturally wanted to pull at the woman's sleeve out of reflex. However, she suddenly realized something and held off her gesture. Mother, put it this way. The woman in this painting can be counted as half my Shifu. I honestly didn't expect her to be related to this ancient ruin though. Bai Yin explains with a mild smile. Without a doubt, the knowledge she gained from the ancient diary has propelled her alchemy and abilities by leaps and bounds. If she didn't have that, getting to this point might have required a much longer period, perhaps even a lifetime. So I want to put this portrait away. That way I can honor her at a later date. Making a bow of her head, the Demon Queen immediately attempts to store the painting away by raising her hand. Admiration 5. Let's go. Bai Yin took down the portrait and was ready to leave then. However, something unexpected occurred when the blood from her earlier battle with the monster horde came into contact with the canvas. The painting suddenly started to make a faint light after coming into contact with that red liquid. Since there's nothing special about this spot, we should go look elsewhere then. Bai Yan's eyes were more and more solemn as she said that, thus causing her to miss the strangeness in her hands. Yen. Bai Ning originally wanted to speak when she noticed the bright light shooting out of the painting and into her daughter's temple. This change came too soon, and so fast that the grandmother could not react. Yen, are you alright? Do you feel unwell? The woman's eyes were full of worry as those hands clenched the Demon Queen's shoulder in urgency. Bai Yin did not respond to the questions from her own mother there. Going unresponsive in the eyes, she's looking all dull and phased out. What is this place? Like a wonderland, this place in which Bai Yin came to was blooming with countless peach blossom trees. Ugh! Groaning as she touched her forehead, she begins to recall what had happened. If I remember correctly, I was with mother inside that ruin. Then that light hit me in the head. That's right. It swallowed up my consciousness and now I'm here in this place. But why does this place look so much like the background in that painting? It can't be. I'm inside the painting itself? Narrowing her eyes in, Bai Yin scans the area with vigilance for any signs of danger. Yet there was nothing. Silence, and the sound of wind blowing against the grass to make a rustling sound of calm greenery. That's all there was. I didn't find a way out of the ruins after searching for so long. Perhaps the way out lies here, within this painting. That thought in mind, she collected her head and moved forward. Very soon, the demon queen came ahead with a tombstone ordained by several peach trees. Mu gorgeous tombstone. These were the words engraved on the rock slab. Mu gorgeous. Rubbing her chin at the name, Bai Yin began to muse over the indication of this. So that person is called Mu gorgeous, eh? But why did someone make a gravestone for her in such a place? And how in the world did I end up getting in here? Thinking up to here, she once again fell into silence to organize her train of thought. Then suddenly, she seems to recall something crucial. Specifically, it's the speck of blood that came into contact with the painting when she was removing it from the wall. Could it be at that moment? In that case, the one who created the ruins outside must be the same one who created this world within the painting. Presumably someone who admires this Mu gorgeous. She mutters out her theory to make sense of it all. So where is the exit? If I can come in then, that means I can also leave. What is the key here though? Looking around, the demon queen could see there's nothing but peach blossom trees growing here on the mountain. If there's anything worthy of note, it's the tombstone in front. No matter, I'll figure it out. First I need to pay homage, since I'm already in front of her grave. She did after all leave behind the diary in my possession. Admiration 6. Mu gorgeous was technically half her Shifu from a certain perspective, so showing respect wasn't strange. Taking to the knee, she makes 3 full kowtows like one should at a worshipping ceremony. Bump. Then at the final hit of her head against the ground, the tombstone slid to one side to reveal a hidden passageway. Quite frankly, Bai Yin did have a momentary thought about this happening like all those drama shows she used to see as a child on Earth. But to have actually happened like in the scripts still left her dumbfounded. This is real. It's that easy. Making a gobsmacking face, she did not know how to react to this stroke of luck aside from jumping up with glee. Quickly gathering herself, the demon queen didn't hesitate for a second and dived right into the hidden tunnel. The passageway was bright once she got inside, the steps long and drawn out as she headed further downwards to God knows where. Despite the unknown, she knew it's better than staying idle. After a long while, Bai Yin finally came to the end of the stairs and hit a wall like before, this time with a long message engraved onto the surface. This life, gorgeous, is the one whom I cannot make mine. Years of war caused her to hate demons to the bone, and at the same time, caused her to hate me to the bone. I, the great king, truly never thought the day would come where I would fall heads over heels for such an arrogant and overbearing lass. I do not know why I would love someone like her either, why her existence can occupy my heart to such a degree. I only know that in the moment where she stood under that peach blossom tree, that's when this lass ensnared my heart. She wasn't that clawing and feisty kitty anymore, but a quiet and enchanting butterfly in my soul. Sadly, I never realized this until it's too late. She's gone now, completely disappeared from my reach. If only my pride didn't get the best of me back then, perhaps I would have given her my all, even the entire demon race as a gift if must. I'm willing. But this girl, she's truly a stubborn one. I know her soul is avoiding me in the afterlife. I tried finding her to no avail. Maybe she thinks I would destroy her completely? I do not know. Maybe that's why I never got to meet her again. To think I would fall so low as to want to beg a female to return to me. So, knowing she wouldn't come back, I built this mausoleum and erected her tombstone at its center. I also transplanted the peach blossom trees she loved so much, hoping she would return someday and come here to see what I created in her name. Perhaps then she would understand my feelings. My time is coming to an end soon. If there is another life, I swear I will never let her go again. I will cling to her like vine until the end of time. The handwriting on the wall was clear and visible, causing Bai Yan's heart to fluster with emotion. Demons. This writer must be the ruler of the demon race back in the old ages. To think this individual would have such strong regrets in the realm of love. I wonder if this Mu Gorgeous really went into the wheel of life and death? Or did she simply disappear out of existence? Bai Yin slightly lowered her eyes due to this thought. I remember Mu Gorgeous mentioned something about going into the rebirth cycle. But did she really do that? Furthermore, the time from now has been so long. Would her soul remain the same? Or did she get reborn anew so many times that her existence has been erased completely? If the former were true and she remains, I would really like to meet such an incredible woman. However, casting another glance at the inscriptions along the wall, Bai Yan's eyes locked onto a certain phrase. I hope that if the last does return someday return? Why did the leader of the demons use the word return? Is it a coincidence that I ended up here, or is it fate? Why do I get the suspicion the reason I'm able to come here is because of the inheritance from the diary? He doesn't deserve to live one. She slowly reached out with her hand, allowing the slender fingers to gently caress the handwriting on the wall. Birrrr. Suddenly, the whole ground started to shake from out of the blue. Looking up, Bai Yin discovered a dark door appearing along the wall, like it's there to welcome her arrival. Without any hesitation, she pushed it open and walked through where a warm lady's chamber welcomed her view. It's very comfortable merely from looking at the layout. Somehow, Bai Yin got this strange sensation that she's lived here before. Unable to help it, the demon queen came closer to the big bed at the center. I don't know why I was able to come to this place and open so many secret doors, but I know you have a way to get me out of this ruin. My daughter, she's waiting for me outside, so. From the moment she came back out from where her father was trapped, Bai Yan's always felt a gaze overseeing herself from the dark. It's not ominous or coming at her with ill intent. It's more of the curious kind, so she didn't make a big deal out of it. But she's here now, where the sensation was at its strongest. It's time she got to the bottom of that spying. Don't think you can hide from me just because you won't talk. I know you're behind everything that's happened thus far. I don't know why you did this, but why don't you come out and talk? I know you're not doing it out of malicious intent. I cannot stay here. Bai Yin lightly frowns, her eyes revealing a strange light. Chirp chirp. A chirping sound came from ahead after that statement. Locking onto the source, Bai Yin immediately saw a golden little sheikling gingerly protruding its head from the other side of the bed. Its gaze was curiously eyeing the lady who came into its territory. A golden chicklet? Bai Yin blinks in surprise, staring down at the little fella. Did you bring me to this place? The golden chicklet shook its head profusely. He's not lying. There's nothing wrong about him opening that dark door. But it doesn't explain why this woman was able to come inside here. Not you. Bai Yin wrinkled her brow. Ever since she laid eyes upon this little golden fluff feather, Bai Yan's certain that spying sensation hailed from the tiny thing, since it disappeared in that very second they locked eyes. Then is there any way you can get me out of here? Moving closer, the demon queen reaches out to lift the chicklet off the bed to speak. Based on her speculation, this chicklet likely broke out of its shell not too long ago. The hair on its body was very small still, so it's very cute and adorable. Chirp chirp. The tiny fella struggled under those fingers and made a sad and wronged face. It wants Bai Yin to let him down. Only if you answer my question first. Is there a way to get me out of here? Bai Yan's voice got a little heavier as she asked again. Ling Yin was waiting outside. It's bad enough she's wasted all this time going through that passageway. It's only going to get worse if she has to spend more time in this bedchamber, even if she does feel a sense of familiarity here. The chicken fell silent, its expression looking like it's thinking. After a long while it finally nodded its head. Growing happy at the nod, Bai Yin swiftly continued. So what's the plan to let me leave? The chicklet struggled some more and broke free from that hand before heading further into the bedchamber. He doesn't deserve to live too. See this? Bai Yin did not hesitate and followed from behind. The chicklet did not stop after leaving the bedchamber, but instead went towards the staircases. Twisting its buttock, he climbs the steps with much struggle. Luckily, the little fella's physical strength was quite good, so he didn't tire out during the climb. However, He did promptly plop down to the ground after seeing the peach blossom trees, once they were on the surface. Where is the way out? Stopping right behind, Bai Yin gazes down at the panting golden fluff bird and asked. As if signaled, the chicklet climbs up again and led the way forward. There are countless numbers of peach trees here in this mountainous forest, but this was no problem for the golden chicklet. With every several trees they passed, the tiny guy would leave a mark on the earth to indicate their location. Finally, when the chicklet reached a certain one, he stopped and began to repeatedly peck at the bark to gnaw away at the inner fiber. This continued until the whole tree was entirely devoured by the tiny fella. Satisfied by his own deed, the tiny chicklet sat down due to its bulging belly and made a big burp. He didn't do this out for nothing, of course. In the past, that person told him the peach forest wouldn't need to exist anymore if someone enters from the outside. By then he could eat this specific tree that he's been conniving after for so long. Bai Yin took no action through all of this. She didn't know what's going on, but she's got this strange feeling that the tiny bird just grew by a notch in size. In fact, those fluffy furs also got more beautiful, like someone just painted an extra sheen of light on the surface. Just then, Bai Yin felt a whirlwind around herself as the world spun. The golden chick became extremely frightened as well. In his haste, he squealed and jumped up to Bai Yan's shoulder for shelter, its gaze carefully scanning for any movement around themselves. Due to how adorably cute the tiny fellow was behaving, especially that exploding fur face it's making due to the shock, Bai Yin wanted to say something to help calm the bird. However, she quickly discovered the trees in the surroundings disappearing right before her very eyes. First it was the trees, then the earth beneath their feet, then even the ruins. They're all gone. Right now, Bai Yin had found herself floating in the void where there's nothing but an endless abyss. Back outside in the real world, dark clouds circled around the sky as thunder roared above. Di Lingyan's body remains unmoving like a broken doll after being hit, her blood slowly seeping out of her little mouth due to the injury. Butterfly felt utter despair at the sight. Despite her own life-threatening wound, this female elder stands ready to defend the little one after pulling herself up. Gu Lao, you must stop this insane madness. Otherwise you won't know how you will die once the monarch returns. Throwing her bluff, the woman sneers sarcastically in an attempt to scare the other guy off. Unfazed and expressionless, Gu Lao's sword was already aimed at her chest. Butterfly, you are not my opponent, so move. What's the point of putting up a strong front? Is it worth it for such a tiny child? Wiping some of the blood from the corner of her mouth. I refuse. You're not my equal. The reason you are this strong now is because of the drug you used. Without it, you wouldn't even stand a fiddle to me. Unfortunately, a momentary boost was still a boost. Unless that drug wears off, she wouldn't be able to stop this bastard. Anti-Butterfly. Ling Yan had regained her consciousness and gradually climbed up from the ground, her hands tightly clinging onto the female's leg. He doesn't deserve to live. 3. You go back. The pipsqueak barely manages to smile there. I don't want anyone to lose their life for my sake. If you or anyone else does, I will live the rest of my life out in guilt. Please leave Anti-Butterfly. He won't necessarily kill you if you do. Growing heavy in the eyes, the female elder did not respond to the pipsqueak's plea. You're so old already, Gu Lao. Why must you bully such a young child? Don't you have any consciousness at all? Miss Ling Yan is so well behaved. Everyone in the manor adores her. How come it's only you and Guya who dislikes her as so? Gu Lao casts a cold hard glance at the baby girl, before calmly replying to that series of questioning. Because she doesn't deserve to live. None of the people who takes away the lady's happiness deserves to live. Even if it's a 2-year-old child, they are no different. In this very second when the air felt ominously heavy, a loud explosive noise suddenly rocked the ground as a huge crevice began to open from the direction of the ruins. Gu Lao turned his head in surprise, apparently not understanding what had happened again. However, Di Lingyan did as she caught onto the familiar whiff of smell hitting her nose. Without hesitation, she stopped crying and toddled towards the direction of that huge crack. Mother! I knew Mother would return. Mother always keep her promises to me. This. Butterfly's eyes were equally as shocked as the old bastard's. Not so long ago, the ruins had already sunk and caused everyone to lose hope. And now there's a huge crevice forming on the ground from out of the blue? No matter how experienced she was, the female elder still had trouble making sense of all these changes. Within a moment, a red light flew out of the huge crevice and came before the pipsqueak's view. Bai Yan's expected things were bad based on her intuition, but she never expected things to be this bad. Her daughter was covered in blood. For that, her heart wanted to explode as her lungs suffocated due to the extreme anger swelling out from within. Ling Yan. In a flash, the demon queen lunged towards her own baby and pulled her into a protective hug. This reunion was heartwarming, of course, but for the golden chiclet on the woman's shoulder, this meeting wasn't so nice as he got blown right off due to the blasted speed. If not for those tiny wings, he might have fallen heads over heels from the incident. Who did this? Bai Yan's voice trembled as she asked, the murderous intent all apparent along her eyes. Answering this was Butterfly, who made a regretful face. Mrs. D, I'm sorry. I couldn't protect your daughter properly. Mother. Growing tense due to how the conversation was evolving, the pipsqueak promptly spoke in Butterfly's defense. It's not Andy Butterfly's fault. It's that bad old man over there. She did everything to keep me safe. Also, it's not as bad as it looks. My blood has healing properties, see? The cut on my hand isn't so bad. It's only a light scratch. It doesn't hurt. Despite the tears trickling down the baby's cheek, she continues to smile to act tough when in fact the dagger she used hurts a whole ton. He doesn't deserve to live for. Without uttering a word as a stream of salty fluid trickled down onto her mouth from above, the demon queen gradually locks onto the mentioned old bastard after making sure this was real. Did you hurt my Ling Yan? She asks with the most menacing glare. Gu Lao didn't get frightened by that eerie glare though, sneering in his voice. That's right. Why? My Ling Yan did nothing, why hurt her? I've already explained this to Elder Butterfly before, and I have no reason for it aside from that she doesn't deserve to live. Holding himself high and mighty, Gu Lao doesn't even flinch when spouting that crap. This girl is just someone who wants to climb up to the monarch's bed. Why should I be afraid of anything? Loosening her protective grip around Ling Yan's body, Bai Yan suddenly bursts out laughing. It grew wilder and wilder until her very voice echoed across the entire valley, sending all of the nearby critters fleeing due to the creepiness. Good. What a good way of saying one doesn't deserve to live. Bai Yan's eyes pinned onto the old bastard, as she began to trudge forward at him in a very scary manner. Since you are willing to spout such things, then I'm sure you won't mind paying the price for your own words. And you think you can make me pay by yourself? Gu Lao grew derisive in his smirk, dismissing any possibility of this woman being a threat. That's right, by myself. Bai Yan's voice now sounded chilling to the bone. However, before either party could make a move against one another, another third voice that was harsh and cold cuts in from the front. Who did you say doesn't deserve to live? Without a question, this voice was all too familiar to everyone present, so they didn't require a single moment to recognize it. Gu Lao's body froze as a result, stiffly swinging his head at the source. That old figure started to shake as his vision landed on the sword-like man casting his shadow over the group from the sky. He's back. Gu Lao's eyes shrank once he took a better glance and realized there's another woman standing beside the monarch. That woman, isn't that Mrs. D's mother? Why is she with the monarch? Monarch. Butterfly became ecstatic at the sight of her liege returning. Her mood's been thrown up and down lately, so it's taking a heavy toll on this female elder, who nearly died today. The monarch is back. He's finally back. That's great. With his monarchness here, Gu Lao won't be able to make waves anymore. And Miss Ling Yan is safe now. Perhaps it's the easing of her tenseness coming too abruptly. But Butterfly's legs quickly gave way once she got those thoughts into her head. Without much of a struggle, the woman collapsed to the ground and started to laugh hysterically. Grandpapa! Ling Yan's eyes got all teary and red once she recognized who has come. However, the pipsqueak did not let those tears roll, due to her own stubbornness. She wants to appear strong before Bai Yin. You're back. Seeing that Ling Yan's clothes were covered in blood, Heavenly's mood didn't fare so well despite the welcoming words. You hurt Ling Yan? The grandfather turns to the old bastard and asks, after getting a grasp of the situation. Looking ugly in his face, Gu Lao grinds his teeth in frustration. Monarch, I only. Grandma. Before that reply could be finished, Di Ling Yan had broken free from her own mother's hold and quickly ran for the two newcomers' spot after they landed. Bai Ning's heart almost stopped beating there once she saw the blood-ridden clothes on the child. Without fail, the grandmother also ran forward and caught that tiny body. Quick Ling Yan, show me where you're hurt. Grandmother here will have a look. Giggling as she shook her little head. It's okay, grandmother, I'm fine. The wounds have already healed. He doesn't deserve to live 5. Grandpapa. The pipsqueak's smile was bright and joyous as she spoke. This is my grandmother and mother. They are here to pick me up, so I'll be going home with them afterwards. The entire body of the man had gone stiff as a rock there, slowly turning his head like a utter robot. He makes a cringy face like he's eaten a lemon. Is this girl your daughter? Answering with a blank face, Bai Yin replies in a dismissive voice. Yep. Why didn't you mention it to me at the time while we were inside the ruin? I remember mentioning the name to you at least 3 or 5 times. Why don't you say she's your daughter? Due to the excitement of this grand news, Heavenly's entire face was changing color now. Still bland in her voice, Bai Yin doesn't sound so motivated in her explanation. That's because I was afraid you might get overexcited like you're doing right now. I had intended to tell you after we leave the ruins. Not like you are getting any younger, you know. It's not good to get too much stimulation at your age. Gu Lao and Butterfly did not expect Bai Yin to use this sort of a tone to speak to Heavenly. As a result, they're both staring at the Demon Queen in a weird way. Of course, the former being that of joy, since if the woman offends the monarch, then it would be equivalent to a death sentence, thus removing Guya's love rival. And the latter, well, it's obviously full of worry. Butterfly opened her mouth then, and wanted to persuade Bai Yin to change her attitude. Unfortunately, it's at this exact moment that her injury had a relapse like fate destined it. The female elder found her words stuck in the throat, forcing her to only use those eyes as a pleading sign to the pipsqueak to stop this demon queen. Ling Yin naturally saw Butterfly's expression, but she did not care too much in light of this. In her view, whatever her mother does was right. That's why she had no reason to stop it. You, Heavenly huffs a long breath to gather himself before shaking his own head helplessly at that childish behavior. Only you would be so worrisome about me, thinking I will do something risky for Ling Yan's sake. I may not have raised you during your childhood, but don't think I don't know your personality and character. If Bai Yin had really told him about it in the ruins, he probably would have done something stupid and hurt himself out of impulse. By then nothing good would have come of it. So, it's the right choice to keep it a secret from himself. Wanting to give her old man a cheeky smile after that comment, Bai Yin was halfway into that when her eyes fell upon the pipsqueak's dress again. Immediately, her half-formed smile flipped upside and transformed back into that of anger. You and mother step aside first. I'll deal with this situation first. And when we go back, I'll apologize for keeping things a secret from you. At this moment, Gu Lao's brain was undoubtedly not working properly. All over his mind was the words Heavenly used. Although I never raised you since you were a child. Raised you? What does that mean? Can't be. This woman is supposed to be growing up around the monarch? Otherwise, why else would he say something like that in an apologetic tone? Not waiting for him to understand the dilemma, Bai Yan's figure had already come before the old bastard. In his haste, Gu Lao hurriedly drew his blade upwards to meet the sword coming down at his head. Sparks flew at the metallic contact of the two swords. Yn. Stepping back several steps at the force, the old bastard found his arm going numb despite being able to repel the first strike. The strength of this woman, she's likely above that of elder butterflies, even among the various ranks of the demi-divine lord level, which Gu Lao and Butterfly was at. There are still the strong ones and the weak ones. For example, Butterfly would be somewhere at the middle area, while Gu Lao hit the higher barrier of the same level due to the drug. Right now, based on the old bastard's assumption, Bai Yan's strength should be equal to Elder Sky's, the second strongest in this domain. For that reason, his complexion had gone a little whiter as he continued to retreat under the onslaught of the Demon Queen's blade. You took a drug. He doesn't deserve to live. 6. Bai Yan narrowed her eyes in as she accessed the old bastard's condition. This old thing should have taken some sort of drug to gain this much power. He did not have this much strength before. Pity. Bai Yan smirked with frosted delight. Did you forget I'm an alchemist who cured Ji Song's illness? What? Gu Lao appeared dismayed as he looked up to that gorgeous yet frightening face. Out of reflex, the color literally drained from his own as he watched what the woman was doing next. First, Bai Yan pulled out a bottle from her storage ring and removed the cork to let a round green pill to slide out onto her palm. With a pinch, the object promptly turned to powder and drifted into the air like gas. Already ugly in the face to begin with, Gu Lao's expression grew even worse when he realized what was happening to his own body when he felt the effects. Whatever boost he had from the forbidden drug was diminishing rapidly. How is this possible? Gu Lao's heart got smashed in as the panic settled into those old eyes. Although he came ready to die today, but he did not expect that he would be killed by just anyone, let alone a woman whom he considers beneath himself. Monarch, Gu Lao hurriedly turned to Heavenly. Me and the Miss went to the main world to bring you back. Out of that debt, can you help me this one time? If without me, you wouldn't have been able to return to the heavenly domain so smoothly. If Ling Yan had died, then perhaps he wouldn't have the courage to ask. But that's not the case, was it? That lass was perfectly fine still, so he still has a chance. Heavenly's sight fell upon the old bastard, those eyes sharp and daggering. Before I answer you, I want you to answer me this first. Let's assume I have a daughter. How do you think I would treat her? Of course that didn't go down the old bastard's head properly, since he didn't want to think in that direction. That's an easy answer. You would cherish the daughter as the ultimate treasure. Based on how much love Heavenly gave to the pipsqueak, it's obvious the monarch would also love his daughter to the bone. Spoiling such a daughter would be the least of it. That being the case, Heavenly sneered and bared his teeth. What makes you think I would help you fight my own daughter? Besides, you also harmed my granddaughter. Boom. Darkening a sunny day with that detail, Gu Lao felt his world collapsing in on himself. Perhaps if the day wasn't so tense and dire, then he would perhaps connect the dots already by the first comment from Heavenly. However, his mind has already been warped, propelled into a state of radicalization. Whatever clue he was given, he's turned a deaf ear to it until now we're got a firm confirmation. So that's how it is. The monarch already married and had a child of his own. No wonder. That's why he made that face when I asked him. Slowly closing his eyes, the old bastard finally accepts his own fate, knowing what lies ahead. The power boost he got had already faded, so any hope was lost. Monarch, this is all my own work. It has nothing to do with the Miss. She doesn't know anything. I hope you can spare her since she's not related to this. Bang! Bai Yan's sword cut down again, after giving her father space to speak there. She's done with this person now that he knows why he's going to die and the reason behind it. PFFF. Spewing blood from his mouth from the blow, Gu Lao smashes into the ground in despair. Gu Lao's death. 1. I will decide upon Guya's fate once I investigate her involvement. You do not get to dictate my decision. Heavenly's daggering glare now got menacing as the threatening aura seeped forward. If I find out she's the one behind all this, she will not be spared regardless of what she's done for me. Gu Lao's body shook, his old face going ghostly white as he crumbled to the floor in a paralyzed state. If Milady really did make a mistake, the monarch wouldn't let her go for sure based on his character. Yen, let me carry out his execution. Heavenly went over and pats his daughter on the shoulder, that voice no longer violent and cruel. I don't want his filthy blood dirtying your hands. Facing that gaze beside herself, Bai Yan slightly nods her head in understanding. She understood this was her father's way of trying to redeem himself. All right. Swish. The moment Heavenly raised his hand, a random longsword promptly flew into his hands from the ground. Power gushed forward from his body, causing all of the greenery and trees to sway under his might. He's a true death god right now. Even the air around him was starting to distort due to the strength he released. Gu Lao's did not get to utter another word afterwards. Right when the old bastard opened his mouth, the sword had already pierced through his chest and into his heart, causing the blood to spray outwards like a fountain. Looking back at this moment, the old fanatic truly regretted his own decisions. If he had known things would turn out this way, he never would have chosen this route. It's one thing if he died alone, but it's very likely Guya would be dragged into the mess too. For that reason, he couldn't close his eyes even in death. Worst of all, that blasted pipsqueak still lives. If only I had moved a bit faster, then I would have taken her head and achieved my goal at least. Second Elder, I will remember your efforts in protecting my granddaughter. Heavenly says after pulling the blade out of the now dead perpetrator's flesh. He didn't forget the dreadful state Butterfly was in when he came out. Monarch, this is what I'm supposed to do. There's nothing to remember for. Whether it's right or not, I'll remember regardless. Caressing the little pipsqueak's hair, Heavenly's face was all smiles. As for you, sweetie, you can't call me grandpapa anymore. You got to start calling me grandfather instead, understand? The pipsqueak appears all dull in her expression, due to not figuring out the reasoning for that request. How did grandpapa become grandfather? And become mother's father too? You're really my grandfather? Tilting her head, the pipsqueak still didn't quite believe it. But if he's not grandfather, then why would mother be so anxious that day? She even entrusted me to the elders, in order to go into the ruins to save him. As authentic as ever. Heavenly grins with those pampering eyes. And this little lass really is fated. No wonder the first time I saw her I would feel so close, and want to kidnap her home. Turns out she's my actual granddaughter. Funny part was that he had intended to get Xiachen the steam bun to come kidnap her home if he couldn't. Turns out they're siblings. Gu Lao's death too. Now I don't need to kidnap her and she's already mine. Haha. Just thinking of that was enough to make Heavenly laugh inside, causing him to feel elated from the feet up to his head. Ninger. Heavenly now turns his sight onto Bai Ning after collecting himself. If his tone before towards Bai Yen and Ling Yen were that of gentle loving care, then this beloved woman, that was his wife, would be that of pure tenderness. I'm sorry for being so late in meeting you. Bai Ning smiled. It's I who should be saying sorry. I shouldn't have forgotten you. Otherwise we wouldn't be apart for so many years. And I've caused my own daughter to suffer so much. Lan Yu's foster mother for Bai Yen. Temperament was good, so she was able to entrust her own daughter to that friend. What Bai Ning didn't expect though was Lan Yu's husband being a scumbag, who would torture his own supposed daughter. Now just thinking back to her own mistake in the past was enough to make the grandmother clench her fist in frustration. This girl. It's her and Yunfeng's daughter, their essence of love. Chi-Chi, dissatisfied at being ignored for so long. The golden chicklet squeaked several times before jumping up to Bai Yan's shoulder to announce his presence. Mother, there's a little chicken. Di Ling Yin beamed with delight as she reached out with her hand in an attempt to catch the little fell. She's all sparkling in the eyes at such a cute fluff feather. Chi-Chi. There's anger in the chicklet's eye at the maltreatment. I am not a chicken, okay? I am an ancient golden phoenix. How can you compare me to a chicken? These humans, they're all so blind. Oh, I'm so frustrated. Chi-Chi. Mother. I have always been envious of Big Brother having little Rice accompanying him. Can I have this little chicken as my companion? The chicklet nearly fell off the bonkers at the request and shrieked in protest. Out of reflex, he also wanted to jump over and peck the little rascal for treating him as a toy. However, after seeing the lovely little face of the baby girl, the golden chicken found himself unable to move. He's a male, and a male that likes pretty things at that. Since Di Ling Yin was such an adorable little girl, there's no reason he couldn't turn a blind eye to that insult. Okay. Bai Yin plucked the tiny chicklet off her shoulder and handed it over to her daughter. From now on he's your partner. Due to his small stature, The golden fluff feather fitted perfectly onto the pipsqueak's palm, as she held him with both hands. It's like they're made for one another. Since you're always making that chi-chi sound, I will name you Chi-Chi. You will be Chi-Chi from now on. Ling Yan giggled with delight as she eyed the fluff feather. Chi-Chi disgruntled at the vulgar name. The golden chicklet protests by repeatedly squeaking. I refuse. Mother, Chi-Chi will grow older, right? Subconsciously and out of the blue, Ling Yan suddenly made a gulping sound. I wonder if he will taste good when he's bigger. Still protesting on 1 second, Chi-Chi abruptly stopped in the next after hearing that remark. Immediately, he shrank into a tight ball to erase his own existence. Smirking as she glanced downwards, Bai Yin found this quite amusing. He's probably not delicious. This chicken helped her, so it's only right she showed some gratitude. Sure enough, Chi-Chi sighed a breather at the help. He honestly thought for a second they might roast him for dinner. Oh! The pipsqueak makes a splendid smile in light of the disappointing answer. Chi-Chi, you don't need to be afraid. I won't eat you since you are my partner. But if you meet my second brother Jean Tian, then he will eat you though. It doesn't matter if you don't taste good, so you need to watch out. Gu Lao's death 3. Chi-Chi's eyes were full of horror to the point where he's ready to cry. This girl is comforting me. Or is she intimidating me? Father. Bai Yin rubs her daughter's hair before turning to Heavenly. How did you two leave the ruins? The demon queen's really starting to worry. Chi-Chi would openly wet himself if she allows Ling Yan to continue. That's why she wanted to change the topic. There was a flicker of doubt in the man's eye. I don't know what's going on either. One moment I was fighting that monster horde. The next I'm being dragged away by a strange force, and out I came. Bai Ning gently pursed her lips and explained her part. I don't know the specific details either. Yin Yan, weren't you the one who caused the ruins to disappear by doing something? Did something? Out of reflex, Bai Yin casts a glance at the shriveled-up Chi-Chi. Turns out he didn't just send me out. This little guy actually made the entire ruin disappear altogether. Monarch. Butterfly seems to have recalled something and grew urgent in her voice. During this period while you were away, the other domains have invaded. Elder Sky is currently dealing with the invaders, but I fear he might not be enough. Heavenly's gaze promptly grew heavy, his voice cold and hard. How did the news of my disappearance spread to the other domains? I don't know. Butterfly hung her head in apology, those eyes ashamed for her own incompetence. When Heavenly first returned, they had vanquished the spies that might have hidden themselves in the domain. The fact that the news still leaked meant there's a traitor among their ranks. Narrowing his eyes in, the man didn't speak for a good moment before loosening them again. Ninger Yin Yan, Ling Yan. We're going home. We're going home. Bai Yin did not speak as her eyes fell upon Gu Lao's now lifeless corpse. There's something weird going on in the sort of face she's making, like she's thought of something. The Monarch Manor. The sky had grown dark as countless individuals floated above the estate, while gazing down at its defenders. Your monarchs can't come, so they sent you rabbles here instead? Sharp like a sword, Elder Sky confronts the enemy with a strong presence of his own. Ha 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 ha. A roar of laughter breaks through the empty space over that comment. Your own monarch is now missing and we all know it. I advise you and the rest to surrender now in order to avoid further deaths. Otherwise, do not blame us for not showing mercy. Speaking was a senior donning a flax-colored robe, his smirk contemptuous and arrogant. Going slightly pale in the face, Elder Sky forces down his inner panic. Who told you that our monarch is missing? He's merely in closed-door training. He will come out later when called upon. This may be their home ground, but the other monarchs have sent their strongest fighting force for this invasion. No matter how the battle proceeds, it's going to be ugly even if they do come out on top. Furthermore, it's extremely strange that all the other monarchs would unite together. In the past, they only attacked on their own, never as allies. Ho ho! The same senior sneered with sarcastic note. We naturally have our way of finding out the details. But from my view, Heavenly is nowhere close to being a true celestial. If he was back then, he wouldn't have simply sealed the monarchs in and left a hole for the likes of us to transverse through at will. Rush back to the Monarch Manor 1. Thousands of years ago, Heavenly sealed the channels, licking the domains using his own power. It's just that, tried as he might, the man lacked the necessary strength to completely cut off the link in its entirety. Therefore, it has now set up this twisted arrangement where the strong and mighty monarchs could not travel, while their weaker subordinates could at will aside from entering the main world. Now we only want to know one thing. Heavenly Flame, is he alive? The most senior foe stares down at the defenders, his voice arrogant and brazen. J.I. Sky's eyes grew heavy. Our monarch is of course alive. If that's the reason you and the rest is here, then that's enough. You can leave now. The heavenly domain does not welcome the likes of you here. Ha ha ha. The senior bursts out laughing. Gee Sky, you think we will believe that? I cannot sense an ounce of Heavenly Flame's energy signature. Since you won't tell the truth, then don't blame us for being impolite. His eyes gradually filled up with killing intent, as he raised a hand to give the signal. Kill them. The order given. The battle has begun as the thunder roared, and the howling cry for blood rained down at the defenders. G-Sky's strength was indeed very strong, to the point where his name reigns supreme, even among the other faction's followers. However, that doesn't mean he's unbeatable. With no time to think, Elder Sky promptly drew his sword to meet the oncoming attackers with his fellow defenders. Do not fear. Our liege may not be at the manor right now, but he's going to return sooner or later. Until then, we must defend the estate. Unlike other powers, those living in the Monarch Manor are relatively united. And if they aren't, well, those people had long perished during the previous invasion by the other domains. That's why the Elder Council sought Heavenly's return. They needed a powerful anchor for the fresh and surviving blood. Unaware to most defenders, there's a particular woman hiding behind the masses of black dots, which comprised of the invaders. Miss Yin, this location is unsafe, we should go back. A maid accompanying the masked female spoke with crisp, clear voice. Yin Ruashi, old witch, coldly huffs a grunt at the nosy service maid. Quit annoying me. It was not easy for me to get permission from the monarch to watch this battle. It's fine as long as I'm not back at the celestial realm or demon realm. Still hesitant, the maid didn't sound so sure. But the monarch tasked me to ensure Milady's safety. Right now I believe it's unsafe to continue watching from this distance. I implore you to leave immediately for a safer position. Is this how you're supposed to speak to your superior? Yun Ruashi's expression darkened into a menacing glare, due to the way she's being addressed. She's always been held in high prestige at the Celestial Palace, so this attitude insulted her ego. Know that none in the Dust Frost domain dares to speak to me in such a manner. You are nothing but a servant to the monarch, so watch your tongue. Pinning the maid with her glare, Yunrua, she was deliberating on how to punish this servant after she gets back. This vile old witch has never been one to let others go. Now, who doesn't know that I'm the most beloved woman of the monarch? The maid looked stiff despite not agreeing. Nevertheless, she bowed her head to avoid further conflict. Rush back to the Monarch Manor, too. The monarch ordered you to serve me. That means you only need to follow me and do as I say. Know that any woman who goes up against me ends up miserable, or in a ditch. Do you want to give it a try? Yun Rua, she began to cackle like a true old witch. She's seriously falling into madness now that the restraints are off. Fortunately for this vile being, the wind around her were extremely loud, coupling with the constant yelling from the battle beneath. None were able to pick up her voice. The maid's face went as white as one would expect, though. She's not happy about Yun Ruashi's style of being pompous and rude to everyone around herself. Besides, someone that hasn't even received a proper title from the monarch doesn't deserve such fine indulgences. Yet it's quite true, any female that got in the way of this old, which did find themselves in the gutters at a later fate. Yun Rua, she saw the face the maid made there. For that, she's very pleased and grinned with baring teeth underneath that mask. That's the benefit of power. Now, I don't even need to hide my real self anymore. Like now, it's so pleasing to see the horror on their faces when I start making threats. And just you wait, Bai Yen. I have already reached a height you can never achieve. Once the Dust Frost domain attacks the main world, not even the demons can protect you anymore. Now stay quiet while I watch this show. Yun Ruo she was done, and turns her attention back to Ji Sky and the others. This war is not something one comes across easily. Perhaps there won't be a second chance in a lifetime. What a shame. I've long heard of Heavenly Flame's name from those at the Dust Frost domain. He's supposed to be a rare genius that stands at the very peak. Too bad he's too blinding and doesn't know how to hide his brilliance. Now he's offended too many, and will perish at the hands of those he deems beneath himself. In this old witch's view, even if the guy remains missing for now, he's going to die sooner or later. It's just a matter of time before the monarchs of the other domains break free. By then, the new rulers would come forward, and she would stand by their side as the queen of all. Beneath the sky where the main fighting ensued, Ji Sky could see several of his peers in the Elder Council was starting to wane in their ability to fight. In his urgency, the old elder cried out, "Do not give up. We must hold on until the monarch returns, understand? If we fall now then only death awaits us all." Sure enough, Ji Sky's words had the added effect of revitalizing the fighting spirit of those who are ready to give up due to the fatigue and pressure. They understood that if they are going to die anyways then it's better off fighting. They are no cowards. Otherwise they wouldn't have been chose to be here in the Monarch Manor. Before anyone knew it, the darkened sky of gloom and oppression had dispersed to reveal the bright red sunset. The scene felt like the world's been stained with human blood due to that crimson shade. For this, the scent of death hovered in the air like an indispensable fog while warriors fell from both sides. Ji Sky found his heart bleeding inside after he saw the newest causality among his fellow defenders. It was an elder like him, a good friend and a good comrade. Now the person was dead, laying there lifelessly with his eyes shot wide open in resentment. In a burst of rage, the mighty Elder Sky flew into a violent rampage with his sword. One strike to reap ahead, a second sweep to decapacitate a foe across the waist. He became a walking death reaper on the battlefield. He wants revenge. Revenge for his fellow comrades. Behind the crowd of remaining defenders, who was in charge of protecting the weak inside the manor, Guya stayed hidden behind a big oak tree as she watched the ensuing battle. She too didn't feel well, as she cusped her mouth in horror at the bloodshed. How could this be? Why is this happening? It's not what I wanted to see, I only wanted to bring Elder Sky back by leaking the news. I only wanted to use them as a distraction so I can sneak away to where Heavenly is. Since that day where Elder Sky left with Bai Yen, she's been placed under house arrest pretty much. Rush back to the Monarch Manor 3. When the foreign enemy attacked, all the people sent to watch over the Gu estate were transferred over, thus allowing herself to sneak out. In a way, she succeeded in her plan. However, she could not find Gu Laotho before departing. Out of fear for her trusted attendant's safety, Guya reluctantly came to the Monarch Manor to seek the old man. But why is this happening? Haven't all the enemies who came to attack in the past not been blocked by the elders? She thought that when Elder Sky returned from the ruins the situation would dissolve on its own. But that's not happening. Some of the elders are dead in front of her already. No, this is not what I wanted. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I only wanted to confirm Heavenly's safety. That's why I wanted to go find him. Did you reveal the monarch's absence? A light voice from the side then that caught the guilty woman off guard. In a flash, Guya's complexion became a ghostly white as she hurried to check who's speaking. Is it you? The young girl asked again with those unfriendly eyes. Miss Ji Song, please don't talk such nonsense at a time like this. Guya's face barely made a change when she smiled in retort. How can I sell out the monarch? Guya understood full well the consequences of admitting. That's why she must never tell the truth. Ji Song did not smile or frown, only staring deeply like she could gaze into the darkest secret of this woman. If you did it, the monarch and my grandfather will not let you go for this. Despite the voice not being intimidating or threatening, those words alone were enough to make Guya freeze up. Out of reflex, she began to sweat as a gulp took hold in the throat. Miss Ji Song is too funny. I would never go behind the Monarch Manor to do such a thing. Ji Song didn't buy it one bit, and continued to glare at her. You know better than anyone if you could do such a thing or not. Guya wanted to refute such an accusation right there and then. Unfortunately, her voice disappeared as she opened that mouth to deny because those dead bodies had come into her sight once again. With the monarch's influence, he's bound to discover the truth that I did it. If there wasn't any casualty, then it's one thing. But even some of the elders are dead. He won't let me go for this even if I didn't mean to do it. Miss Ji-song, I'm only here to look for Gu Lao. Have you seen him? Guya presses down her inner panic and barely managed to smile as she asked. Ji-song didn't give a reply to that right away. Instead, she slowly looked upwards at the invaders. Probably dead by now. Elder 6 and Elder 7 is already dead at the hands of these evil men. He should be no different. Her little heart has been set on Guya being the perpetrator of instigating this invasion, so her mood wasn't very up. What's more, she could see the flash of panic when she called out the woman. She may not be intelligent and sharp like her elders, but she's not oblivious to those who lie. Guya's figure appeared very stiff after that comment, pulling her lips into a frown. In that case, I will go look for him elsewhere. This matter was done at her own decision while concealing it from Gu Lao. That's why she must locate her attendant to discuss the issue, because only he could protect herself. Rush back to the Monarch Manor for, after a long stretched-out battle, Ji-sky was gradually feeling the strain on his old self after deflecting the last blow. He hasn't given up, but strong will doesn't equal to physical strength in this case. Bang! Attacking from the rear in his moment of weakness, Ji-sky did not dodge in time, and took the blow bluntly, dropping his sword. This old man could no longer carry his weapon, and flew many meters off before plunging into the cold hard ground with that fall. Elder Sky, those on the Monarch Manor side exclaims in great fright at the sight. Grandfather! Ji-song's heart jumped, her head a blank state as she ran towards her only family member. Little Song. After spitting out blood from due to the injury, the poor grandfather only saw the painful image of his granddaughter crying and running over. For that, his old face crumbled into horror. Don't come over. Back over in the sky, the leading foe took notice and waved his men to dive down for intercept. Immediately, Ji-song was caught between several attackers with her in the middle. PFF. Ji-sky once again spewed blood from his mouth at the situation. Those eyes a reckoning of red. Don't any of you touch her. Whoever dares to touch so much as a hair on her will have their soul crushed under my fist. I will take you all to hell with me if I must. The enemy leader did not seem to hear the threat though, and instead reached down to bring the child into a choking hold with his hand. Ji-song. All of the elders are very much frantic now, as they attempted to break through the blockade for a rescue. Sadly, the enemy forces were many, and they too little to resist. In retrospect, Ji-song didn't appear frightened in the slightest despite being in such a predicament. You let her go, let go of my granddaughter. Pulling himself up, Ji-sky wanted to run over to be blocked by countless swords from the front. Old man, your granddaughter is in our hands now. If you tell us where Heavenly Flame is, then we'll let your granddaughter go. How about that? Saying this was a woman dressed in blue. Her sarcastic eyes fell upon Ji-sky when saying that. They've been stalking the Monarch Manor for several days already. And the reason they didn't attack earlier was because they wanted more information regarding Heavenly's existence. If the guy was around, he would have come out by now. And as they all see, clearly the guy was either in great danger or seriously injured. Regardless, it's the time to press their advantage. Furthermore, imagine they managed to capture the infamous Heavenly Flame alive? That would be a merit worthy of going into the history books. My grandfather won't ever tell you anything. Ji-song coldly met the blue-dressed woman, her head held high in proud proclamation. He is absolutely loyal to the monarch. Even if you kill me, he won't say a thing. Is that right? The woman slowly strolled forward and grabbed over Ji-song from the guy. With slight flecks of her slender finger, a huge pinch of red promptly shone through the child's cheek after the act. Who doesn't know Elder Sky of the Heavenly Domain is extremely fond of his own granddaughter? I like to see if you are more important today, or that Heavenly Flame is more important. Rush back to the Monarch Manor 5. The woman in blue doesn't believe that this old guy would let his granddaughter die like this, hence the confidence her speech. Ji-song. Ji-sky's voice sounded a heart-wrenching battle cry as he crushed the blades into dust with his bare hands. All of you get out of my way. His momentum exploded, and those close to him stumbled backwards due to the effect. However, they soon stabilized their pace, and again surrounded the old grandfather in the middle. Grandfather. Ji-song swings her gaze over and spoke with a cool, calm voice. I am not afraid of anything, so you do not have to worry about me. You have to remember that you are the first elder of the heavenly domain. Some things are more important than me. Aching in the heart over his granddaughter's maturity, Ji-sky spews another mouthful of blood as his momentum deflated. I told you all to let go of my granddaughter. Are you deaf? What skill do you bastards have in harming a child? If you got the balls, then come at me instead. Song, she's just a child. And my only concern in the world. But betraying the monarch is not possible. Even if I don't know if he's able to get out of the ruins. That doesn't matter. What's more, next to the ruins, there is still Ling Yen waiting for her mother. How can I ever put that little one in danger after her mother entrusted that child to me? But if I don't say anything, then Song is bound to lose her life. Do I really have to let me one and only granddaughter die? Ji-sky slowly closed those pained eyes, his mind returning back to the picture of how Heavenly single-handedly paid the price of sealing off the domains, due to that righteous determination. Then after that scene, another image appeared with Bai Yen entering the ruins with the same type of determination. Gradually, the old elder shot open eyes again. With the hesitation gone, he returns his sight upon the young girl with the loving gaze of a grandfather. Little Song, are you really not afraid of anything? Ji-song's sight fixes onto her grandfather with the same type of determination in those memories. I am not afraid. As long as we're together, then I fear nothing. Ha ha ha. Ji-sky breaks out into a hysterical laugh at that. He continued this until tears gradually flowed out of those old eyes. How can I turn my back on the Monarch Manor when your parents died for the heavenly domain? My little Song, I promise you. Afterwards I will definitely get revenge on these people for you. Then I will accompany you to the afterlife, so we can all be a family again. The other elders all stared at their leader with surprise. No one knows better than they do regarding the level of love Ji-sky had for this child. She's his life. Without this granddaughter, he would be without a purpose. By then, what other reason does he have to live? Grandfather. Ji-song softly formed a smile as her eyes beamed with pride. You are my hero. In comparison to saving a granddaughter, giving one up requires even more courage. Rush back to the Monarch Manor 6. This way, the monarch would not die once he returns, and her grandfather wouldn't become a sinner. He would have succeeded in preserving his values and his name. The woman in blue had a slight change in her expression after that. Flexing her muscle as she pinched the child's hand, everyone could hear the sound of brittle bones snapping. In light of the excruciating pain though, Ji-song didn't dare utter a single cry. She's afraid her voice would make her grandfather regret and change his decision. Ji-sky, I'll give you one last chance. If you don't say where Heavenly Flame is, then I'll strangle your granddaughter. The vile woman's eyes were cold and sinister as a snake. Song. Ji-sky issued a despairing roar. Grabbing the nearest weapon he could find, the old grandfather slashed into the air with an arc at anyone who blocked his path. Come after me if you want to kill me. Don't touch my granddaughter. The other elders shared a glance with each, and got a mutual understanding to enter the fray again. They want to break through the layers of obstacles to come to Ji-song's aid. Otherwise, it would be too late afterwards. Ji-song's breathing has grown increasingly more difficult as she choked under that grip. Knowing her end was near, the child wanted to give one last look at her grandfather before dying. Just another look. Tears flowed from the corner of the girl's eyes at that thought. There's so much yearning and sadness in there that it's heartbreaking. Despite showing no fear earlier, she's just a child after all. How could she really not be afraid of death? No. Ji-sky desperately rushed towards his granddaughter's location, but there's simply too many foes ahead blockading his route. At this moment, He could feel his heart shattering into a million pieces after he noticed the speck of blood slowly dripping out of the child's mouth. It's the obvious sign she's going to give in at any second. Song! Deafening in his cry, the old man also starts spewing blood from his throat at the hopeless situation. The enemy saw this opening and most definitely took advantage of this. In their haste, they shot forward and pierced countless swords into the old elder's body. Song wanted to plead for her grandfather to stop after that. Sadly, her mouth could not find a voice as the last light slowly drifted away from those eyes at this despairing scene. This time, she reckons she won't be able to escape. Grandfather will die too, but she wants Grandpa to live well. The monarch can't be without grandfather. Ji-song gently closed her eyes in regretful resentment at these invaders. Now, the woman in blue only needs to give one tiny tug to end her life, due to how weak she has become. And sure enough, that grip gradually began to tighten around the neck, since the woman in blue figured this child was no longer of use. Stop, you stop this right now. Fifth elder and the others also roared in absolute anger. Come after us instead, don't hurt an innocent child. Song is only 10 years old. Do you not have any consciousness? Child. Back over in the sky, the flax-colored robe senior who's in charge of this invasion force sneered with delight. You are mistaken about something here. Regardless of you being a child or a old senile, you're all going to die. Everyone in the heavenly domain will die today. Rush back to the Monarch Manor 7. Do it! Pulling his sight back, the flax-robed senior coldly commands. Smirking as well over the approval, the woman in blue did not hold back anymore, and attempts to finish off her hostage with a snap of her thumb on the child's neck. Boom! However, it's at this crucial moment that a light sword suddenly cuts down from the heavens and lopped the female villain in two. This attack proceeded to slice through the hearth beneath as well, thus creating a long chasm through the earth. Already unconscious due to the lack of air, Ji-song began to crash down towards the ground from midair. Thankfully a hand had caught her little body partway. Otherwise she would most certainly make a huge splat at the impact with her frail health. You! Ji-sky's eyes shrank in realization at this sudden interjection. Having his heart jump out, this old grandfather would never forget that dazzling face of the woman whom he misunderstood. He feared for the worst during this entire battle, but now all he felt was ecstasy of joy. She's back. Does that mean the monarch is back too? Thinking up to here, Elder Sky and the rest of the Monarch Manor's defenders were looking around with excitement until they locked onto a certain figure in the sky. It's true. Monarch. The monarch is back, he's really back. At this very moment, the elders are full of joy on their faces as a warm current surged from within their once despairing heart. As long as the monarch is here, none of the people who came today can leave. We will avenge our comrades on the battlefield. Bai Yin did not pay attention to these people in light of the messy scene. Rather, she's preoccupied with feeding a medicine to her little friend whom she caught. Cool to the touch, Ji-song's eyelash flutters as she slowly regained consciousness. Murmuring in the voice, Mrs. D, not uttering a word in light of her own innards churning with anger at what has transpired, Bai Yin hands the patient over to her own mother Bai Ning. Mother, help me look after her and Ling Yan. I need to deal with this first. Okay. The grandfather happily nodded. She has no doubt her proud daughter could deal with these fools. What's more, there's also her husband Yin Feng here. There's no way her man would let their daughter get hurt. Go mother! Di Ling Yin gleefully shouts in support. She could already see these poor people crying for mercy. Isn't living a good thing? Why do these people always like to go up against mother? Heavenly Flame! The most senior leader of the invasion force bypassed Bai Yan's figure with his sight and locked onto the man behind her. Instantly his breath stopped in tense agitation. Didn't that person send news that Heavenly Flame is missing? Why is he back now? I only want to know who told you lot about my disappearance. Heavenly coldly demands. It's a secret that is only known to those within my estate. Monarch. Ji-song pants and coughs as she spoke with those weak frail voice. I probably know who it is. Who? He swings around to ask the child. Rush back to the monarch manor. 8. It should be Guya. Speaking of the name, Ji Song's found her body emptying out as the sweat poured out of the forehead. Guya. These two words smashed into everyone's heart like a hammer. Fortunately for the woman herself, Guya had snuck away earlier. Otherwise, she would most certainly faint away, due to the fright of being exposed. Song. Ji Sky had just come back to his senses after hearing the name. Going pale, this old grandfather hurriedly spoke. You are absolutely certain? Guya was known to love the monarch, so they never did anything about her obsession before. Now it's become known she's the one responsible for this tragedy? Without question, it's shocking to the defenders. I bumped into Guya when I was coming over. She was sneaking around and watching in the back. I found her behavior very strange, so I got suspicious, and asked her if she's the one who leaked the news of the monarch's disappearance. She got very nervous and frantic when I did. That's why I believes it's her. Ji Song then shifts her sight upon Heavenly, that voice weak but clear. Monarch, you need to investigate this. I do not know the specifics, and can only provide this much information. Sure enough, the man's gaze narrowed into a dangerous slit. No one knows how much anger he has in his heart. Because of Guya, the victims of today's battle are numerous. And because of that woman, Ji Sky and his granddaughter were also nearly killed. Such a crime cannot go unanswered. If true, he would never let her go. I understand. I will send others to investigate this matter. If it's proven true that she's responsible, I will have her pay for everything. The death of the brothers and sisters of the monarch manor will not be in vain. Heavenly's voice was firm and without question. Now, I must deal with these bastards from the other domains first. Then I will handle the internal affairs. No matter who it is, if they had a hand in leaking the detail of my disappearance, they too will die like these attackers. The hearts of the elders were also in full swing. Compared with Guya, they are more likely to believe in the words of Ji Song, whom they watched grow from a baby. Sure, they don't have the exact evidence yet, but that's not an issue once the battle here clears up. If that woman was responsible, there's going to be a trail to follow. You don't need to get your hands dirty. I alone am enough to deal with this lot. Bai Yin cuts in then, and slowly presented herself before the enemy army, with that contemptible smirk. She still has a bone to pick with these people from the other domains. Bai Yin hasn't forgotten it was they who attacked the demon realm, and caused state teachers' death, so murdering them as payback was the least she could do as an interest before the main show. Yin Yen. Heavenly sounded surprised by the way his daughter acted. If he's not wrong, there's an intense murderous aura coming off of Bai Yan's body. Can't be, they provoked her in some way that I'm not aware of? Father, before I came to the heavenly domain, the demon realm was attacked by people like them. In order to eradicate those assailants, my husband could not accompany me here. If my guess is not wrong, those who attacked that day are hailing from the same domain as this bunch. Father? Elder Sky looked up in shock, his face in disbelief at the two speaking bodies. Did I just hear it wrong? Mrs. D called the monarch father? The demon realm? Not letting Elder Sky ask the question, the leading senior of the invading force spoke first. Demon realm? You're the queen of the demons? The queen of the demon realm, she's Heavenly's daughter? This is not good for the rest of the domains. Rush back to the monarch manor. 9. Yes, I'm the queen of the demon realm, and likewise I'm Heavenly's daughter. Bai Yan's faint smile gradually turned cold and menacing, spreading her killing intent across the battlefield, and stirring up a cyclone around the air. Ji Sky's expression changed instantly over that confirmation, looking back and forth between the parent and child. This most senior member of the elders wanted to say something only to discover he's lost his voice. This was especially true when he saw Bai Ning to the sky, causing that shock to magnify by several folds. This girl is the monarch's daughter. In other words, her mother is the monarch's wife? And what did I do before? I harmed the monarch's wife by mistake. This time I won't be forgiven for sure. Nothing will be able to atone for that sin. The night has become increasingly more intense by this point, thus shrouding Yin Ruoshi's presence behind the main invasion force. This old witch was currently clenching her fist until the nails had pierced into her palm, due to jealousy. Why? Why is Bai Yin appearing here of all places? And how did she become Heavenly's daughter? I had to go through great lengths before becoming the mistress of the Dust Frost domain. Yet she gets everything without lifting a finger. Why is it always her? I refuse to accept this. I refuse. Miss Ruashi? The maid turned her head and saw the blazing glare coming off of the old witch then. By following the line of sight, she too took notice to Bai Yan's existence and began to have thoughts. It seems that Miss Ruashi and that woman have some sort of deep grudge between them. Let's go. Yun Ruashi orders with a low whisper due to her fear of Bai Yan taking notice to themselves. The maid sneered but her face remained unchanging. Miss Ruashi, don't you want to continue watching this show? No, if we stay any longer then we won't be leaving at all. If Bai Yan finds out I'm here, she will chase me to the end of this world. I need to sneak away before it's too late. Besides, it's never too late for me to exact my revenge. She will pay for her crime against me in due time. Giving one last look at the center of this battlefield, Yun Ruashi doesn't linger and disappeared into the night. If it was Heavenly who said this then it would cause a panic. But you think you can kill us based on your strength alone? The old man knew that he could not escape today, so he doesn't flee. But what he didn't expect though was the man's own daughter coming forward for a fight. In that case, he might as well drag this woman down with him to act as a cushion. Bai Yan ignored that statement though by drawing her Godslayer. Whether or not I have the skill isn't for you to decide. Once you try it then you will know. She doesn't need to use too much power for anyone with this ancient artifact in hand. Anyone under the Divine Lord level of a monarch stands no chance. Boom! The sword slashed down from above after she raised it, causing a huge rift in the air, like she's slashing through a mountain itself. The sonic boom alone from the force had deafened the surroundings, and some of those too late to dodge were instantly turned to mush by the power alone. Ashamed G Sky. Forget about the enemies here today. Even the defenders of the manor were stunned by this display of sheer brute force. Out of fear, they had taken steps back in order to avoid being caught up in the mess. Now, do you believe I have the strength? The corners of Bai Yan's lips gradually stirred up a smirk in contempt of the old man, who questioned her ability. You're also half a step into the Divine Lord level? The leader clenched his fist in frustration, as it trembled in uncertainty over his own resolve. The reason why Gu Lao was considered strong was because he had half a foot into the realm of being a monarch. And this woman, she's obviously stronger than Gu Lao. How in the world did Heavenly's daughter that came out of nowhere have such an incredible ability? Feeling his heart drop into a chill over this truth, the leader of the invasion force dreaded for what the future holds in regards to the other domains. They came to deal with the forces of the heavenly domain because they believed these defenders are at their weakest. Turns out that's a lie, and that they are at a new whole level. But running away was too late even if the old senior wanted to by this point. Why was that? Because Bai Yan had already appeared behind his back with the Godslayer and slashed down. Fortunately for this old man, he managed to react in time and used his own blade to deflect the first strike. Of course, he still suffered incredible damage from the impact and got blown away several meters due to the sheer force. And as if that wasn't enough, Bai Yan quickly followed up with a second strike with her leg. It hit him and hit him hard in the stomach, causing him to gasp as the air left him. Shooting out like an arrow, the old man found himself unable to speak when he wanted to plead for mercy after a series of incessant coughs. In his horrified state, he looked up to discover the one gazing down at himself was not the demon queen, but none other than Heavenly himself, the master of this domain who showed no emotions in those eyes. Heavenly, you don't need to live anymore. Boom. Without so much as a chance, Heavenly pressed down with his hand against the senior's head and crushed his brains out with an energy grip. Retracting his hand after flinging off the whitish brain materials from his palm, Heavenly turns back to his daughter with a guilty smile. Yen, you wouldn't be angry that I killed this guy, right? He came up to me first, it's not my fault. I couldn't resist so. Bai Yin simply stood there and smiled at her father. then turning to the others present with her dominating gaze. I presume the rest of the invaders can be dealt with by the elders? Just now that sword strike from above not only killed off a good chunk of the invasion force, she also wiped out the strongest of them. That meant the only ones remaining are the small fries, with the occasional stronger ones. However, they are nowhere close to their leader whom Bai Yin just killed. Yin Yin! Bai Ning happily came up to her daughter's side and grasped onto those hands. When did you reach the peak stage of the demi-divine lord level? Not too long ago. Bai Yin shrugged. It's during the time I spent inside the ruins. I touched upon the threshold of the divine lord level, and is only a step away from breaking through to it. That was to say, aside from an actual monarch, there are no others stronger than herself. Perhaps Ji Sky might be a match in some areas, but in terms of sheer brute strength, the old grandpa definitely didn't hold a fiddle to the demon queen who controlled the Godslayer. Ji Sky felt ashamed and didn't dare to meet Bai Yan's line of sight after she said that, though the woman referred to the elders handling the cleanup, but those in the know already figured out she's actually pointing to Elder Sky. Sinner 1. Monarch. A sound of joy came from the front then that caused everyone to look over to the source. Heavenly wrinkled his brow as he did so, because he recognized that voice. Sure enough, it's a familiar face of a woman, whom he didn't like that caused him to make an annoyed face. Guya did not notice the strange atmosphere around that has gotten very cold, and continued to show excitement in those eyes. Just now, she was going out to look for Gu Lao, but stopped after she got wind of the monarch's return. Without caring for anything else, she hurried back, and thus created this scene. Tender and graceful in her face. Monarch, I'm so glad you are safe. Heavenly's sight locked onto Guya, but instead of returning that warmth with his own, he only had cold sharpness. Going rigid at that intense glare, Guya did not know how to read this. Monarch, why are you looking at me with such eyes? She has known the man for many years. Strong, handsome, and at the same time indifferent to those close to himself. However, she's never been the subject of such glares before. It's making her heart quiver due to the unknown. Guya, you know better than anyone on what you've done. Why do you need me to remind you? Heavenly spoke with such indifference that it hurts the recipient like he's cutting her soul with a blade. What do you mean by that, monarch? Guya's complexion got ghostly white, her lips a thin line. Everything I've done is for your sake and only for you. I would never think of being a burden for you. In her mind, the invaders are of no consequence as long as Heavenly returns, thus removing her of any sin she's committed. Heavenly did not comment on that, only examining the woman like a judge. I will give you one last chance to admit your crimes. Guya's face didn't simply look white anymore. She's downright green at the inner panic. Forcing that swelling emotion down, she attempts to change the subject, and away from her crime of leaking the news out. Are you referring to the matter of Mrs. D? It must be because of Ling Yin. Heavenly loves the child so much. He must be upset I tried to expose the girl's mother for being a vile and scheming villain. Yes, that must be it. That idea in mind, Guya's gaze quickly swept over Bai Yin, and Bai Ning's body and grew sour inside. She's very jealous of those two for being able to stand beside her absolute love, while she could only watch from afar. Really? Like daughter like mother. Both of them are vixens who only knows how to trick their way into a man's bed. Ling Yin needs to get away from such a mother and grandmother, lest she be taught wrong. I will see to it that she get a proper education when I'm in charge. Monarch, I know you are referring to Mrs. D treating of Ji Song. As for what Ji Song said before, Guya did not take it to heart. First of all, Ji Song has no evidence, only speculation and guesswork that it's related to herself. With only that, there's no way that child would bring it to the forefront. Moreover, the monarch wasn't stupid in this lady's mind. Why should Heavenly believe a child's word, right? Sinner 2. Heavenly frowns and turned to the surviving elders. Yin Yin cured Song's illness? This matter? Why didn't anyone mention to me? Guya saw that Heavenly did not respond to herself, and grew a bit more panicky. I accidentally overheard Ji Song and Miss Ling Yan's conversation. That's how I knew about their plan to have Mrs. D treat Song's condition. It's a huge risk, and that caused me to worry exponentially. So I went to the elders. Who could have thought she would really cure Song? Ji Song also felt quite nervous at the attention being on herself. Biting her lips, she worriedly watched the man for his judgment. That day her grandfather harmed the monarch's wife, that's a fact. Whether it's for an understandable reason or not, it's of no matter. Someone must be made accountable for the crime. Heavenly didn't want to spend another moment on Guya, and turned over to Ji Sky instead. Calm in his cold voice. What exactly happened? Speak. Shaking all over at the holler, the old grandfather showed intense regret and guilt on that face. Let's ignore the fact that Bai Ning was the monarch's wife. If he had known Bai Yin really had the ability to cure his granddaughter, Ji Sky never would have done what he did. Pity. Panic got the better of his head, and he had done something unforgivable. Monarch, it was Guya who came here that day to find me, she told me. He subconsciously glanced towards Bai Yin. Mrs. D wanted to become the mistress of the monarch manor. That's why she risked Song's health by attempting the procedure. She also told me Mrs. D doesn't have the ability, and is putting my granddaughter at risk, so The surrounding air was getting colder and colder, until the oppressive air made it difficult to breathe around the old man. Monarch, you also know that Song's condition is very serious, and that any careless treatment would cause her to lose her life. I won't speak on Mrs. D's medical ability, but as a grandfather, how could I let a stranger treat my only family member? I fear she would have really died that day. Ji Sky hung his head in shame, those eyes full of sadness. So I summoned everyone to stop Mrs. D. Heavenly stayed quiet after hearing the details, but the violent surge of air coming off around his body made the whole area dangerously hair-raising. So that's it. In my own house, my daughter was subjected to such maltreatment. Instead of treating her with respect and absolute loyalty, they saw her as a criminal and a liar. What qualifications do they have to question her intent? How much more harm will everyone cause my sweet child until they are satisfied? Bai Ning's expression got all icy, her sight landing on the elder. My daughter don't need to be no mistress. If there's anything she wants, she will get directly from your monarch. If I had known about your suspicions and misdeeds, I would never have allowed my daughter to save your people. Guya shot up her face in shock at the very speaking woman. What does this woman mean? Is that how she exposes her own greed? How dare she dismiss the position of being the mistress of this estate? Is she not afraid of being kicked out by the monarch? Moreover, these elders would never allow such a greedy person enter the monarch manor. However, only silence hung in the air, not one person willing to default on Bai Ning's claim. They are already aware of Bai Ning's status based on Bai Yan's identity, based on their liege's personality. Forget about a simple request. The man would even pluck the moon for this daughter of his if she requests. Sinner 3. But Guya on the other hand doesn't know anything, hence her inability to grasp why someone who schemes to get into the man's bed would openly expose her own character. Wouldn't that be the equivalent of pushing the monarch away by shooting her own foot? Afterwards, Heavenly acted like he didn't see Guya's shocked gaze, and continued to ask. Ji Sky's heart quivered. I injured the madam. If your monarchness wishes to punish me, then I fully accept my fault. I only ask that I not be casted away and driven out of the monarch manor. The frown on Heavenly's face grew deeper and deeper, until his brain seemingly exploded over that statement. He hurt my wife Ninga, the woman I loved for most of my life. She got hurt by the hands of my own men? Tightly clenching his fist, the man's energy surged and wrapped around the hand as he shot it over to Ji Sky's chest. No one stopped the monarch there, nor did they plead for the elder's case. He's got to take this punch, whether it was for his impulses of that day, or for him hurting the monarch's wife. He must take this in order to repent. And if he didn't endure this punch, well, the consequences may be the expulsion from the monarch manor. Being driven out was far worse than taking a hit. That proves Ji Sky wouldn't be driven out already, and be forced to leave. Do you believe you should suffer this punch? Heavenly's voice sounded harsh and serious as he lashed out. Climbing up from the ground, Elder Sky wipes the blood from the corner of his mouth. I deserved this. I want you to remember that no one is to be believed without evidence. Such a mistake will not be tolerated again. Regardless of what they say, a judgment must be made only after a proper investigation. Out of Song's case, and the fact that you did out of worry for her, plus your long years of service to the Monarch Manor, I will overlook this one time. If there's a second, I won't show the same mercy. If it hadn't been for Di Ling Yen tugging at his sleeve next to himself, plus Song's pleading gaze, maybe this punch wouldn't have been so light. But since he had no intention of evicting the elder, Ji Sky had to bear the punch for the reason of hurting his beloved wife. Yes, Ji Sky sighed a breath of relief as he knelt in respect. Thank you, Monarch. That punch was indeed not very heavy, only causing the senior a few minor injuries on the organ. A mere healing pill would suffice. The corners of Guya's mouth were a little stiff then. She didn't miss the part where Ji Sky called Bai Ning the madam of the manor. When did this woman become the mistress of the Monarch Manor? In just a few months, and the monarch already accepted her? Monarch! Guya panicked, causing her elegant face to turn colorless. You really want this woman as your wife? Do you know who she is? Know her past? And she's a married woman. How can she be fit for the position of being the mistress of the Monarch Manor? Heavenly's attention slowly receded from Elder Sky's figure and shifted over to Guya after that outcry. Elders, you have all heard it for yourself on this woman's ambition. She and her daughter are both coming with ill intent. Do you not see that? The two of them intends to share a single husband. Would that arrangement turn the entire Monarch Manor upside down? By this point, Heavenly's gaze wasn't that of indifference anymore. It's that of a storm ready to blow. Sinner 4. None of the elders responded to Guya then. It's just that their original look had transformed into sympathy at this stage. Outrageous. Boom. Guya felt a blow to the chest at that word, causing her figure to shoot out into the crowd and become a sorry mess. All tearful as she looks up at the man of her life. Monarch, I desire nothing in this life. I merely want to follow by your side. Heavenly sneered over that plea, his voice intense and piercing like a sword. You said Yin Yin wants to become the mistress of the Monarch Manor? Where and how did you hear such a thing? Guya's heart became uneasy over the cold gaze coming down at herself, but the woman also knew this was her only opportunity to turn this around. Otherwise, the one to die would be herself today. That's because I overheard Mrs. D speaking with Ling Yen in secret one day. She said that only by becoming your woman can she become the ruling mistress of the Monarch Manor. I've followed you for so many years. Do you not trust my character? Everything I do is for yours and the Monarch Manor's sake. Growing red in the eye like she's about to cry. The level of grievance would make one believe she's suffered great harm to the soul by the mere accusation. Heavenly growled a laugh in retort. I ordered you to confess to Song's accusation and nothing else. However, it surprises me that I could hear so much more directly from your mouth. Guya's expression instantly froze into a popsicle. What? Song actually accused me of those speculations? That's merely her guess. How dare she tell a story without evidence? Do you know what her identity is in the first place? Heavenly points to Bai Yen, his voice a frosty note. What? Guya appears lost and confused. Smirking at the reaction, the man continues. I presume you know the level of strength in the world I lived in before coming back here. She is from that world. Crawling up from the very bottom. She never once relied on anyone to reach this stage of her life. Guya's face became more and more ugly, not cluing in on why he's telling her this. However, the detail about Bai Yen hailing from the leading world did bring unease to her heart. Why is this woman from the same world as the monarch? Can it be they're related in some way? You said she wants to become a phoenix by using the opposite sex to her advantage? I'll tell you now that even a phoenix must bow before her. So why would she need to become one when she's so much superior? Bai Yen didn't interrupt this and stood quietly to one side. From the very beginning, the Demon Queen had known this Guya had motives towards the owner of this domain. It's just that before She didn't realize Heavenly was Yin Feng himself. But now that she knows, there's no way Bai Yen would ignore the fact that a third party wants to steal her father from right under her mother's nose. Ha! Ji-Sky suddenly snickered a laugh from his spot after that last comment. This old elder actually found the outcome to be just deserved for Guya. After all, her behavior cost the monarch manor many lives today, some being Ji-Sky's own brothers and close friends on the Elder Council. There's no way his heart wouldn't be angry. And then there's that incident with his granddaughter Song. If it wasn't for Bai Ning stopping him, he might have confronted Bai Yen during the vital procedure. By then, the girl wouldn't be cured, and he might have done something far worse that night in which he would regret for the rest of his old life. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.